This film is purely fictional. Please do not imitate it. Your like and subscribe are the motivation for me to update. Chapter 549 The Traitor. Oh! Field opened the small map, tooted, confusedly said, if it is reconnaissance, a team of 50 people is the maximum. There is no need to mobilize more than 1,000 cavalry. This area is still in the stage of mutual exploration. Sending cavalry rashly is very risky. Ashina, you go for reconnaissance. I always feel something is strange. Field rubbed his chin. Wait until we figure out their purpose, and then annihilate them. What a hero king bullshit. If you dare to come here, I will fire you. After sending Ashina, Field came to the goat village for a tour. Simple fortifications were built here. After the openings were blocked with furniture, antlers and chevaux de frise were placed, and it could be used for defense. The buildings in the village were full of mercenaries, and tents were set up on the open ground. The villagers kept cooking soup, and when Field passed by, he could always feel the fear and awe in their eyes. He walked into a house with a slight smell of blood. Die! Philomenae shouted, and raised the kitchen knife with her beautiful hands, beheading a pumpkin. Then she closed her eyes slightly, revealing a cruel and beautiful sneer. Killing a chicken is not that serious. Field was ashamed. Philomenae, have you rested well? I'm fine. Philomenae floated in the air, raising her long white legs. But I have a question. Why do you like to build walls so much? Night Territory builds stone walls every day. You just came to Goat Village, and you start building walls again. Because this is a position, you can fight a positional battle. Goat Village is built on the mountain, and has the advantage of high ground. Field asked curiously, the first era civilization, can they also build walls? I vaguely remember that they can, and the walls are very tall. Philomenae shrugged, and said indifferently, but it doesn't matter, my bombs will fall from the sky. That's right, wait, how could I forget about Frambia's air force, and the Empire has a lot of flying units. With a fist, Field was shocked. No, Goat Village is definitely not a good hiding place. If someone besieged us from the bottom of the mountain, and then bombed us by the air force, I will definitely be finished. Thank you for your reminder. He went up to pinch Philomenae's cheek, ignoring her surprised reaction. Field hurried out to order everyone to set up camp again in a ravine, and echoed the Goat Village. On the other side, the giant wolf was running wildly in the forest, and the surrounding messy branches, or the jagged rocks, could not hinder the dragon wolf's steps. In less than a quarter of an hour, Ashina found the rebel cavalry mentioned by the scout. After the cavalry arrived at a plain, they stopped moving forward, but rested on the spot. The woman in the blue robe looked very proud. Haha, the Griffin Empire has been rotten for a long time, and there is not even a decent army to fight us. They are either chasing the defeated soldiers, or burning the villages. I am bored. Are the people of you Griffin Empire all garbage, Miss Judy? Another beautiful chosen one asked with a smile. Yes, you two adults are absolutely right. Although they are both level 3, Shudi didn't even dare to fart in the face of the insults of the two people, because the other party is the regular army of Franmaya. If I could become a Franmaya, I would wake up laughing in my dreams. Judy flattered him repeatedly. Hee hee. It's good to be self-aware. Kira, wearing a blue robe, waved her whip. Why hasn't the contact come yet? Maybe the insider has been discovered. No. Even if there is evidence, no one can stop him except Her Majesty the Queen. Shudi waved his hand proudly. Our hero king is best at strategy. Hee hee. The two people from Franmaya sneered. In their opinion, the Griffin Empire was full of fools from beginning to end, including the hero king they helped, who would eventually become their wedding dress. Alas, I should have known not to kill the mountain people who led the way. Kira smacked her lips. One thing I have to admit is that the men of the Griffin Empire are still quite fierce. The men of our Franmaya are much worse. Indeed, this is the first time I have seen you reach the peak state. And you look so embarrassed that you look like a useless cat. Another chosen one of Franmaya, Olivier, laughed evilly. But you were too excited, and you directly crushed the poor guy's cat toy into pieces. Everyone waited for a moment in boredom. Soon, the space fluctuated. Adam, who had met Field and others before, tore open the space and appeared in front of the knights. It's him. Ashina narrowed her eyes slightly. Isn't he the son of a minister? Why did he become a running dog of the enemy country? Dear ladies, I think about you day and night and want to see you. He was bloodthirsty and cruel in front of the civilians, and tried his best to please the chosen one of Franmaya. He was servile and subservient, like a loyal dog. Have you finished what I asked you to do? Kyla asked majestically. Adam answered respectfully, of course. My father has offered a plan, which coincides with the Queen's idea and helped the Queen to formulate a strategic plan. The Griffin Queen will send about 30,000 Noble Coalition troops as the vanguard of the army. The Noble Coalition is the foundation and elite of the Empire. They will arrive at your ambush circle under the Queen's order. When the time comes, you just need to attack frantically. The Queen's Imperial Legion will not reinforce any soldiers, but will watch coldly. And the arrangement of the ambush circle is also done according to your approach. Good. Good. Kyla's eyes flashed with teasing, and she nodded with satisfaction. The defense of Grand Duke Ashes is too tenacious. His army and the Chosen Ones have delayed our 6th-level Chosen Ones. When he knew that the Noble Coalition was completely wiped out, he would definitely surrender directly. The Grand Duke of Ashes, who was the 6th-rank god's choice, had outstanding combat power. Like a stubborn reef in a torrent, he blocked their attack, and blocked it for 200 years. Now it has been the 3rd generation. In this way, the 3 fertile border provinces will all be our Frambia's territory. When Frambia obtains the territory, the Griffin Queen will complete the reduction of the vassal state, and everyone will have a bright future. After laughing, Kayla saw that Judy looked unhappy, and immediately said tactfully, "Don't look like that. We in Frambia don't have big ambitions. We just want the 3 border provinces. And you, the Hero King, don't have the desire for unification. You just want to secede. I know that. We, the Frambians, only hope that the throne of the Griffin Empire will fall into the hands of friendly people. For example, you, Adam." Kira chuckled and saw Adam's hidden ambition at a glance. After everyone had a friendly exchange, Adam left. "Get ready to set off. Let's go to the ambush circle." Kira stretched. "Traitor." Ashina's sharp wolf ears heard everything and gnashed her teeth in anger. "They are all bad guys. The Queen asked all the nobles to gather together, just to kill them all in one wave." Chapter 550 Ambush Uncovered? Back in the territory, Ashina described all the intelligence she heard in detail. "Where is the ambush circle?" Field immediately tore open the paper map. "It's not clear, but their marching trajectory will pass near us. No wonder no one came to rescue my family." Gerlo secretly wiped his tears. "It turns out that it's just what the Queen wants. Fortunately, we didn't intend to mix with the noble army." Field hugged Gerlos and comforted him, but then he thought, "That's not right. I always feel that it's too deliberate. Is Frambia's ambition just that little bit? Do they have to send people to talk to the insider? They are all after it." The Lomini expressed a key opinion. "That's right." Field laughed. "Anyway, they are not good people. As long as we get the benefits, it doesn't matter who wins or loses. In fact, hearing this secret is not important to the Night Lord. After all, from the beginning, Field did not intend to fight for the Queen. As for using this secret to threaten Adam, it is a waste of time. He is the Queen's confidant, and he is the Queen's enemy. The result is self-evident. Time is urgent. Ashina, assemble the army immediately. These foreign bandits actually think that we have no one in the Griffin Empire. Then give them some." The little Night Lord is shocked. "My lord, I will let the cavalry attack them right away." Ashina was extremely determined to fight, her scarlet eyes glowing with a gorgeous temperament of killing. "We must make them never return." "Don't worry." Field shook his head again and again. "Let those mercenaries go first, and consume the enemy's physical strength. The cavalry only needs to be responsible for the decisive battle, and to chase and kill the fleeing soldiers. The mercenaries have great flaws. Not only are they lax in discipline, they are also very obedient. When I asked them to move out of the goat village, they clearly showed a protest, and moved even more slowly. Some mercenaries even deserted, took their own gold coins and ran away. Of course, they were killed by the light cavalry. This is no longer an ordinary mercenary. This is a good-for-nothing, and we must strike hard. If the mercenaries are not used as cannon fodder, wouldn't I have wasted my money?" Field didn't care about human rights at all. Let the cavalry whip them, and make sure that the mercenaries arrive at this nameless river and ambush before tomorrow's sunrise. The cavalry must rest at night, and it is impossible to walk on the mountain road in the dark otherwise. It would be no joke if 70 or 80 of them fell to death. With a small map and a local person to lead the way, this kind of trouble will be infinitely reduced. This gives me enough time to operate. But, with the military quality of the mercenaries, It is a bit difficult to ambush. Ambush is not the key at all. We can do this. The next morning, Kira's cavalry regiment, like a roaring torrent, like a steel python, came down along the winding mountain road. The mountain roads in the Empire are difficult to walk on, and the unmaintained dirt roads are torture for the cavalry. Fortunately, the knights were all elite warriors who had fought many battles, and the bumps were no problem at all. No one fell behind. After crossing that river, we can reach another forest. Shooty, the chosen one of the rebels, wiped the sweat from his forehead. The mountain road is too difficult to walk on. It took a lot of energy just to keep my body steady. The big river in the distance crossed the road, and there was a huge stone bridge in the middle connecting the two banks. I always feel something is wrong. Kyla squinted her eyes, looking at the flying birds hovering in the air in the distance. And the large flocks of birds were reluctant to land. There were many footprints around, and they were fresh. Obviously they were made last night. Something is wrong. There is an ambush. Kyla looked unfriendly. You let us into the ambush? No. No. Judy was shocked, and immediately broke into a sweat. I dare to swear in front of the goddess of war. I don't think you dare. Kyla stopped the horse, closed her eyes, injected divine power into her five senses, and her perception continued to break through the limitations and extended to the distance. She soon sensed that a large number of mercenaries were hiding in the woods. From time to time, mercenaries complained, cursed or chatted, and the noise was too obvious. It's just a simple ambush. I was worried that the enemy would do something to me. Kyla snorted coldly. It turns out that they are still a bunch of rubbish. The army of the Griffin Empire is just lame. I don't know which rubbish commander it is. It's okay not to clear the footprints, but he didn't even discipline the soldiers. This professional ethics really humiliates me. They obviously arranged it in a hurry and planned to attack after we were halfway across the river. Olivia reminded. Kira, don't be careless. It's very important to know why they are lying in ambush here. Catch their commander and torture him to find out. Kira licked her lips. It's just right. I'm so angry. I have nowhere to vent. I want to squeeze him dry. Sir, should we take a detour? Judy asked cautiously. No need. How long will it take to take a detour? It's just 1,000 useless infantrymen, without the advantage of a sneak attack. It's nothing. Kira waved her hand indifferently. There are cavalry hiding in the distance, and there may be God's chosen ones. Just pay attention to this. Hero King's cavalry. Listen to my orders. Yes. About 800 knights responded loudly. Dismount and form a battle formation. After crossing the stone bridge, directly launch a counterattack against the enemy troops hiding in the woods. The cavalry tied their horses to the nearest trees and formed an infantry square. My knights don't need to dismount. Wait until the infantry engages in battle. You, Olivier, will lead them and go straight to the enemy cavalry farther away. Their commander is definitely there. Yes. In just a moment, Kira saw through the ambush and arranged a counterattack plan. Their professionalism shocked Judy, and he thought, as expected of an army praised by the Hero King, the Frendians are simply invincible. Drawing the sword with a clang, Kira shouted, Kill them! Let the trash of the Griffin Empire see how powerful we are. The enemy was in a complete formation, with a fierce fighting spirit, and rushed across the stone bridge. Field knew that. They had seen through the ambush. Without the slightest panic, Field also jumped out. Mercenaries, kill one person, and you will be rewarded with 2 silver coins, and attack. Charge. The mercenaries with bows and crossbows threw dense arrows, and the rest of the mercenaries, driven by money, rushed out in a mess. Arrows flew out of the forest, and fell into the enemy's formation, and more than a dozen blood flowers bloomed instantly, and 2 people were shot in the neck immediately, and fell down. But most people, relying on heavy armor, ignored the attack of the rain of arrows, and collided fiercely with the mercenaries. With swords and spears raised, the 2 sides stabbed each other fiercely, and a lot of people fell down in an instant. The small area in front of the stone bridge has been occupied by soldiers from both sides. Who are you? You actually have the courage to ambush us. Kayla saw Field commanding the attack from afar, and shouted to ask. Waving the Night Wolf flag in his hand, Field replied energetically, I am the National Knight of the Griffin Empire, Xiao Chuan Mao, known as the Far North Black Wolf. Chapter 551, Knights of the Nation. Never heard of it. What Knights of the Nation? Kira curled his lips, disdained. I only know the Knights of the Round Table. Field said, nonsense. I have 600 million grandchildren. Brother, but they are not 100 times stronger than the Knights of the Round Table. 600 million, brother? Stop bragging. I don't feel that you are any different from those trash. Kira shook his head lightly. Your men will not be able to hold on. This will be your burial place. After that, Kira loudly urged the soldiers to attack. The rebels, who had experienced the Great Famine, were all cannibals in the literal sense. The rebels charged forward like demons, their eyes bloodshot, and they shouted for a fierce battle. The mercenaries were just here to fish, and they just shouted a few times to deal with the situation. Unfortunately, they were here to deal with the situation. But the rebels were serious. Kill! Kill them! I want to eat his heart. With a thunderous roar, the rebels charged forward one after another, mercilessly piercing the mercenaries' bodies with their guns. As blood was splattered, the mercenaries in the front row fell down in 2 or 3 rows in an instant. Ah! This is just a joke. Run! There was a cunning mercenary who saw his comrades, who had blocked the knife in front of him, die, and his sight was full of enemy troops, and his legs trembled with fear. He shouted, "We are defeated," and then turned around and ran. Fear is contagious, and one person's escape immediately led a group of people to escape. Run for your life. Mom, I want to go home. Don't retreat. Field was furious, and with a shout, he drew out his 2 swords and instantly killed 3 or 4 people running in the front. Keep attacking. Don't say that supervising the battle is too cruel. You have to know that the military expenses of mercenaries are 4 or 5 times more expensive than their own direct troops. But the battle performance was so weak that it made anyone angry. The mercenaries were driven back by Field and had to continue fighting. With only this little trick. It seems that your national knights are just clowns. This also fits my stereotype of the people of the Griffin Empire. Kyla sneered and waved. Olivier, prepare the cavalry to attack. Yes. Olivier immediately raised the battle flag and asked the knights to trot on the other side. In the previous battle, the enemy cavalry did not cross the stone bridge to cross the river, just to have space to accelerate. After all, cavalry charge requires speed, and it is impossible to run in a crowd. The earth trembled, and the heavy knights ran like rolling thunder. The mercenaries began to show signs of defeat just by hearing the sound. Clown? I, Sichuan Main, am one of the 4 pillars of the north. How could I be defeated by your clowns from Franvia? With a domineering wave of his hand, Field snorted, today, you will have the honor of seeing our strength. You are about to die, and you are still talking nonsense. Kira laughed. Attack. Capture their commander. Boom boom. About 200 heavy cavalrymen have completed the acceleration, and under the leadership of Olivier, they plan to gallop across the stone bridge and then break the formation. Dare to insult me? God's punishment. Field jumped on his warhorse and pointed at the stone bridge. Poor guy. He's already out of his mind. Kira shook her head repeatedly. But the next moment, countless golden rays fall brilliantly from the sky. The divine skill, sun, which contains the ultimate destructive power, bombarded and fell heavily on the stone bridge. In an instant, the heavy stone bridge was bombarded into pieces. Even the river, which was instantly heated up, evaporated a lot of water vapor. This time, Philomene did not bomb for a long time. She stopped attacking after she broke the stone bridge. Ah! Olivier, who led the charge, had originally increased his horse's speed to the maximum, but now he was almost scared to death by the terrifying golden light. The divine power immediately surged, and he threw a punch with divine power, relying on the reverse thrust, and only then did he stop the warhorse. But the rest of the cavalrymen who were sprinting were not so lucky. The cavalrymen who were running in the front ran into the golden light and were blown to pieces along with the stone bridge. The ones who ran a little faster fell headfirst into the river. Only the 100 or so people in the back row blocked the broken bridge and kept shouting at the warhorses to stop. What's going on? Did you see the light screen just now? Kyla was dumbfounded and asked Judy, the chosen one of the rebels. I don't know. Judy's eyes were dull. The sudden bombing forced the rebels who were fighting fiercely to an end. The rebels saw that the stone bridge behind them was gone, and they were shocked and confused. Field laughed loudly, waved his sword and encouraged, warriors, the enemy has been cut off and is on a dead end. Attack! The bombing just now was like a signal. Asina led the heavy cavalry of the Knight territory and appeared behind Oliver on the other side. Charge! Charge! With an excited wolf howl, Asina's divine power surged. Level 3 divine skill. Avalanche charge. The biting winter divine power spread like ripples, causing the surrounding space to fall into illusion and collapse. And the surroundings were all white. Behind her, the most elite heavy flag of the night territory also increased their horse speed and rushed forward. Asina's army bonus, predatory formation, cavalry greatly speeds up and gains attack and impact bonuses. Those knights who were originally of no rank had giant wolf phantoms appearing around them. The target of the attack was the enemy knights, who were blocked by the river. Since the knights were heavy, they could not turn around in a short time. If they were hit at this moment, it would be fatal. Not good. The third level magic skill. Justice Guardian. Olivier formed a light shield with his left-hand shield, trying to resist Ashina's charge. Bang! Ashina smashed the light shield with unstoppable force and crashed into the enemy knights with the cavalry. In an instant, blood and flesh flew everywhere, and screams continued. Ashina's avalanche charge instantly tore apart 50 or 60 people in the entire line, and the lance in her hand hit Oliver's shield hard. Sparks flew everywhere. Olivier was shocked by the sudden and terrible impact. He felt as if his internal organs were moving and vomited a stream of blood. There were 30 or 40 enemy cavalrymen. They didn't even have a chance to fight them. They were pushed into the river by their comrades. They were already wearing heavy armor. Now they fell into the water. The clothes were soaked with water. You can imagine how heavy it was. Those who didn't fall into the water were even worse. They were pierced through the body by heavy lances, killed by long swords, or had their limbs smashed by horses, fell off the horses, and then trampled to death by horses. Almost instantly, Kira's proud cavalry suffered a devastating blow. Damn it, I'm going to kill you! Olivier was furious when he saw his fellow countrymen die in battle, not caring that he had suffered a great loss in the first round of confrontation. He roared, and kept thrusting out the spear in his hand, confronting Ashina. Oops. Kira had recovered. The enemy had no intention of relying on an ambush, but was planning to blow up the bridge from the beginning. Chapter 552 Delicious. The other side of the river was in a one-sided massacre, and there was no way to retreat behind them. The rebels who crossed the river immediately fell into panic. With a smile on his lips, Field narrowed his eyes slightly. There have been few people who have fought to the death since ancient times, and it is even more impossible for her to be an accident. Charge! Field roared, and personally swung his sword to fight. The mercenaries around him, seeing that the enemy's morale was in chaos, they only wanted to fight with the wind, immediately sharpened their heads. Everyone moved forward, and pushed the rebels back step by step. I underestimated you. Seeing her own army being slaughtered like pigs and dogs, Kyla's eyelids twitched wildly, and the wisps of anger destroyed her ability to think. Sichuan Mao. But don't be too happy too soon. You let your chosen one intercept my rear team. But have you ever thought about it? Kyla gritted her teeth and grinned. What should you do about the offensive here? Shooty. Let's attack. I will tear him apart. Yes, my lord. Judy's hand shone with silver light, and he swung the artifact spear with great force. And the mercenaries, who rushed up around him, were instantly separated from their heads and bodies. In order to prove her worth in front of the Franmaya people, Judy bravely stepped forward and tore a bloody path. Kira summoned a sacred moon blade, and, unwilling to fall behind, rushed towards Field. As long as she killed Field, victory would still be in her hands. Kira seemed to see Field trembling under her iron hoof. The white divine light enveloped her body. She shouted, in the name of the goddess of justice, I pronounce you guilty. Similar to the war goddess of the Griffin Empire, Franmaya also has a unique pantheon. Get out of here, Aunt. The two were still 100 meters away when they heard a majestic shout. Immediately, a person who looked like the goddess herself came floating in, with a slim figure and white skin. Her brilliant phoenix eyes were even more strange, as if there were stars flowing in them, full of light, making people unable to look away, and dare not look directly at them. There is actually a chosen one. But it doesn't matter. Just die. Kira had absolute confidence in her combat power. She took out a strange little sculpture from her chest. What's more, I still have the holy object given by the saint. Go. Judge the giant god soldier. The strange goddess mark floated out, and countless divine power flows immediately surged around, gathering into a 5-meter-tall humanoid creature. The giant god soldier held a scale in one hand and a sharp sword in the other, like a living divine sculpture. This is a special divine object with the combat power of the 3rd level God's Chosen. Kayla was very proud. We are 3 against 1. I'll help you. 3rd level divine skill, white glare. Shooty stabbed out countless gun flowers in an instant, which turned into a dense glare impact like rain, and covered Philyuomeni. Be careful. Gerlos was so scared that his heart almost jumped out. Don't worry, just leave it to the little sun. Not panicking at all, Field even looked forward to what kind of power Philyuomeni could burst out. He was also curious about the limit of the little sun state of Philyuomeni, and whether she would be forced to disintegrate the artifact. However, Philyuomeni did not dodge, but floated in the air, with her long white legs crossed, and maintained a cold and arrogant expression, as if looking at an ant. Field dared to say that if the background was changed to the Griffin Imperial City, no one would doubt that she was the Empress. After all, this high-handed expression, most people would not be able to learn it. The white glare came first, and Philyuomeni was too lazy to even raise her hand to block. It hit! Judy was overjoyed. Bang, bang, bang. As soon as countless dazzling lights hit the 3-meter range of Philyuomeni, it was like tofu hitting a hard stone, and it was instantly blown to pieces. Everyone clearly saw that. There was a circular shield within the 3-meter range of Philyuomeni. The impact of the divine skill could only create slight ripples on the shield. Divine skill? It still stretched the divine power defense. No, that's not right. It's just a simple divine power coat, and a protective shield formed by life energy. Gerlo's eyes widened. She understood. It's too exaggerated. Other people's divine power coats are clothes. Your clothes are 3 meters thick. Do you have to be so perverted? After all, the total amount of power of the little sun is 3 to 5 times more than that of a normal God's Chosen. Field was not surprised. Although Philyuomeni was weak and boneless, she was very strong. What was even more outrageous was that she destroyed the Crescent Saint clan and doubled her vitality. The enemy's God's Chosen. It seemed that they had not figured out the situation yet, and thought that Philyuomeni was relying on defensive skills to resist. Kira still controlled the giant God Soldier and rushed forward. Giant God Soldier. Judgment. Kira waved the knife and injected divine power madly. The giant God Soldier was like a puppet, swinging the giant sword in his hand with a loud noise. The speed of the sword was so fast that it could not be caught by the naked eye. The powerful blow was so powerful that even the city wall could not withstand it. Go to hell, you rubbish of the Griffin Empire. I wonder how long you can hold on. Kira yelled. Shut up. A gorgeous golden magic circle unfolded behind Philyuomeni. She raised her slender white hand, and her fierce divine power instantly swept across the sky. With a wave of her hand, the giant sword of the giant God Soldier was smashed to pieces by her. Without giving the enemy a chance to be shocked, Philyuomeni threw a punch, which was not very fast, and landed on the giant god, and immediately blasted out a large puff of white blood mist. The giant god's right arm was hit, and the tendons were broken, and the bones were broken, twisting into a ball in a weird posture. What the hell? We met the 4th level God's Chosen. Kyla's eyes almost popped out, and she was sweating profusely. She instantly thought of what Field had said before. I, Sichuan Mao, am a national knight, and one of the 4 pillars of the North. Oh no! I met a really ruthless person. Is what he said true? It's impossible. How could I not know? It's actually a living creature. This blood? Well, it's the legendary creature I need. I finally found it. But the blood is too thin. Philyuomena's eyes lit up, as if she saw a delicious cake. Level 3 Divine Skill, Original Nirvana, Change of Move. The space behind him tore apart, a black light shone out, but this time it did not cut the enemy directly, but gathered into the seed of destruction of Philyuomeni, forming an energy sword inlaid with the seed of destruction. Fleeing the counterattack of the giant God Soldier, Philyuomeni flew up, cutting off the head of the giant God Soldier with one sword. The left hand grabbed in vain, the huge attraction, pulled the blood that should have been splashed like a fountain, condensed, compressed, and turned into a white sphere. The huge body of the giant God Soldier turned into a mummy. Ah! After swallowing it in one gulp, Philyuomeni closed her eyes slightly, licked her lips. It tastes good. I haven't swallowed blood for a long time. Damn, I actually swallowed blood like this. I really swallowed it directly. Field slapped his head. Philyuomeni's second talent, from the ancient times, described that she could swallow blood, and unexpected things would happen. The holy object was actually eaten. Kira was confused. Isn't the giant god soldier a third-level god-chosen combat force? Anything else? Another one. Philomené tapped her lips with her slender fingers, looking greedy. Chapter 553, God of Virtue. Kira almost vomited blood. This is an item comparable to a divine weapon. Do you think it's candy? You even want another one? This is pure humiliation. Go to hell. Kira gritted his teeth, and slashed fiercely with a moon blade in his hand, accompanied by a sharp whistling sound, and the attack was almost a shadow. And the rebel god-chosen Judy only thought about showing his value in front of the Friendians. At this moment, he didn't care about the difference in strength between the enemy and us, and immediately attacked with a gun, trying to win victory for his master. Ah? That's it. What a bummer. Philomené looked disappointed. She swung the sword in her hand, and the surrounding space was instantly destroyed and collapsed. The violent destructive power engulfed the two people's attack like an avalanche, and blasted them away more than 10 meters. The surrounding trees turned into ashes. The two flew backwards, vomiting large mouthfuls of dirty blood in the air. They fell to the ground, and rolled and crawled back 7 or 8 meters. Kyla barely stood up, and her heart was filled with shock. Is this guy cheating? It's obvious that his divine power is at the 3rd level, but why can't he resist it at all? What on earth are you? Why is your divine power fluctuating? I've never seen it before. You don't deserve to know. Philomené snorted, holding the black sword transformed by her divine skill, slowly drifting towards Kayla. Quick, dissociate the divine weapon, and there's a glimmer of hope if you fight her. At the critical moment, Kayla rolled to stabilize her body. Using both hands, a brilliant and majestic light bloomed, 3rd level divine skill, Judgment Slash. The white light wheel like a jade plate rolled over. Kayla's divine skill was obviously more powerful than Judy's. Hitting the divine defense of Philomené, the surging divine skill seemed to hit a hard reef, and was forced to split into 2 ends. The chaotic divine power flew around, destroying the woods on both sides. Field smacked his lips. No wonder the Chosen One would open up another battlefield. Otherwise, after the two of them fought, we don't know what the result would be, and the brothers around them would probably die. I forgot to block it. After taking the enemy's divine skill, Philomené swung her sword belatedly, cutting off the remaining divine skill. She was distracted for a moment, and saw Field and others watching the battle. She panicked for no reason, and immediately covered up by saying, "Humph, I'm too lazy to block. This guy resisted the enemy's skills before. Isn't it because she couldn't react in time?" Field was ashamed, thinking back to Philomené's previous performance. She seemed to never block or dodge. At first, Field thought she was pretending, but later found out that it was Philomené who couldn't react in time. It was all numbers, without any operation. Taking advantage of the breath created by the magic skill, Kira sneered, and decisively smashed the artifact in his hand. Judy, who was knocked unconscious, also immediately dissociated the artifact spear. Kira was not afraid of death at all. She laughed wildly. It can block ordinary attacks, but our dissociation attack, even if the 4th level comes, it will leave half of its life. Haha, impossible. Philomené snorted disdainfully. Her eyes were invincible. She dragged her hands, and heard a shrill whine. Everyone present felt that the shrill sound came from the depths of their souls. Level 3 magic skill, Skybird Soul Fire. The blazing flames moved in an instant, condensed into half-human-sized golden flame birds, and the surroundings were instantly so bright that she couldn't open her eyes. Those flame birds actually grew bigger? Could it be because they devoured the blood? Field was sweating profusely. This effect is immediate. If it devoured more blood, what would the flame birds eventually look like? I guess only Philomené herself knew. Skybirds were extremely fast, flying out like a flash of light. When Kira saw the attack coming, it had already hit her face. She only had time to say, "What a fast magic skill." Boom, boom, boom. The continuous explosions, violent and chaotic like a whirlwind, blew up large deep pits around. The two felt their souls being torn apart crazily, and they couldn't even feel the pain of being burned, let alone throw out the disintegration attack in their hands. The mercenaries and rebels around them were all stunned, staring straight at the direction of the dust, and they were all dumbfounded. After a while, the breeze blew, and the two had no life left, and they didn't throw out the disintegration skill until they died. I'm not seeing things. That's the Lord Chosen One. 2 of them. The mercenaries couldn't help but tremble all over, muttering to themselves in disbelief. The mercenary captain, Kuaijian, usually didn't even dare to look up at them. But he didn't expect to see 2 of them fall today. And the battle didn't last more than half an hour. You can imagine how shocked he was. Don't just stand there. Attack! Field was not surprised at all, and joined the battle with Jellos. While Philomeni took the backlash, rested quietly, and stopped attacking. The rebels were brave before, and a large part of it was because they had the support of their own chosen gods. Now, seeing their own chosen gods die in battle, they no longer have the will to fight, and their minds are full of thoughts of surrendering or running away. With a commotion, the rebels threw away their armor and weapons and fled. Most of them were blocked by the river, kneeling on the ground and crying for mercy, but were stabbed to death by the mercenaries with a grin, and pushed into the river like pigs and dogs. A few lucky guys broke out and fled all over the mountains and plains. What awaited them was the bloodthirsty wolf-like light cavalry. On the other side of the river, there was also a one-sided slaughter. Ashina easily killed the enemy's chosen Oliver, and annihilated all the enemy knights. The war lasted until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and was declared over. We won. The mercenaries cheered, many of them took out their wine bottles and drank, and danced to celebrate with their arms crossed, or boasted, and fantasized about buying all the waitresses in the tavern after the war. Sir, we have obtained another artifact. Ashina put her hands on her waist, and swung her fluffy white tail, and handed over a special spear with divine power in her right hand, which was engraved with gorgeous patterns. Philomeni has always been more concerned with killing than burying, and the amount of gains depends on her mood, and Asina is always thinking about supporting her family, so Asina's acquisition rate is much higher than others. Well done. Silently patting Ashina's butt as a compliment, Field took the artifact and immediately became interested. I'd never seen a pantheon before. Interesting. Dripping blood, after Field conquered it, he obtained information about the new artifact. Artifact, Knight Lance of the Brave, Level 3, Source, Branch of the Virtue Pantheon, Goddess of Courage. Effect, when you are determined to win, the artifact will be more powerful. Special effect, only for the chosen of the Virtue Pantheon. Huh? There is such a goddess. Field was amused, laughing. It seems that the quality of the Fremaya people is very high. But this pantheon seems nothing special. After all, the official pantheon of Fremaya is Holy Light. Chapter 554 Accusations and Tragedy. Sometimes, I have to sigh, little son is really strong. After seeing Kayla's miserable condition, Ashina couldn't help but sigh. Compared to her, my combat power is much worse. Even Ashina had to admit the combat power of the Chosen of Destruction. It's true that the Chosen of Destruction are strong, but their flaws are also great. Field didn't wear tinted glasses because of his personal combat power. They are too few in number, lack of collaboration, and have no potential for sustainable development. In contrast, in other pantheons, although few of them can match Philomeni in terms of individual combat power, they are numerous. It is definitely enough to destroy the world. But if you want to develop civilization, bombing alone is not enough. Besides, everyone has their own value, so you don't have to belittle yourself. The Night territory is big and can accommodate all those who work hard for it. Field patted her but gently, and then patted the butt of Jellos who passed by, and wanted to pat Philomeni, but she glared back. Okay. Ashina nodded obediently, putting away the artifact. Field commanded everyone, before it gets dark, check the surrounding environment, kill the enemies who are not dead, and then loot all useful supplies. By the way, 87 mercenaries were killed in this battle, and more than 150 were injured. Our direct army gained a lot, and no one died. Ashina nodded with satisfaction, and whispered, mercenaries are still useful. I don't feel sorry for using them as cannon fodder. They are also trying to make a living. Field chuckled. Don't reduce their wages. Otherwise others will be even less willing to work hard. In addition, we have obtained a large number of war horses. What should we do with them? Slapping her head, Ashina hurriedly said. More than 800 war horses, plus our own war horses. It is too cumbersome. Because of Kala's decision to dismount and fight on foot, they tied the war horses to the other side in advance. This seemingly smart decision, however, preserved the supplies to the greatest extent, and helped Field. 800 excellent war horses alone was a huge fortune that the small nobles could not imagine. His field was also entangled. Just eating, drinking, defecating and urinating war horses. It would take a lot of effort to take care of them. Or, Sell them to the Imperial Army. Jellos raised his hand. Or sell them to the nobles. It's better to sell them to the rebels. Ashina shook her head repeatedly. Philomenes suggested, kill them all. Kill the injured war horses for meat. And keep the rest. After thinking for a moment, Field shook his head repeatedly. It's useful to keep them. And now try to rely on the stock to support it. I estimate that the next battle will be a stalemate for a while. We attack westward. When we reach the seashore, we will contact the Night Lord and ask the ships to transport the supplies. At that time, we will rely on the warships to attack in a fan-shaped manner and continue to plunder supplies for the Night Lord. Of course, we have to wait until the situation becomes clearer. Otherwise it is easy to run into the enemy's army. Oh! It turns out that the adults want warships in order to move supplies. Everyone understood. Field chuckled, of course. This is the only way to make money from the war. Okay. Let's get moving. Yes. Everyone was busy. And Field, surrounded by a group of cavalrymen, rode a warhorse and scouted the nearby terrain along the river. It seemed that because of the tragic war, a drowned body would float up from time to time in the nameless river. Field had long been accustomed to it, and was not surprised. Hey! There is a little girl there. Looking around, Field saw a thin and melancholy girl, sitting alone on the river bank, staring at the body in the river in a daze. The girl was not only wrapped in bandages, but also had her right eye wrapped in bandages. Her intact right eye revealed sadness, and she seemed to have been seriously injured. After taking 2 steps closer, Field was surprised to find that the girl was very beautiful, but her snow-white skin was not bloody at all, and she looked a little less lively. The rabbit was very small, obviously lower than the average level of the Griffin Empire. Field guessed that it might be because the people here were short of supplies and were starving. Fortunately, the white gold hair on the side of her face shone gorgeously in the sunset, adding a bit of divinity. Could it be the chosen one? Field was not fooled by the other party's thinness. He immediately opened the small map, but found that there were human marks on the map, and they were not hostile. It seems to be the unlucky villagers nearby. With a sigh, Field stepped forward, trying to pull her to the camp to work. Hey girl! There is a war here. Go to my camp to work, at least you can eat black noodles. I saw it. The girl turned her head, staring at Field with her absent-minded eyes. She murmured, your empire's army is really good at killing. The people of the 3 provinces in the west are almost all killed. When will we get real peace? We just want to survive. Butcher, you must be very proud now. The girl's soft voice said something that hit people's hearts. Ugly snake and scorpion demon. Fangs of poisonous snakes. How can you talk to our baron? The surrounding cavalrymen were furious when they heard this, and raised their whips to whip her to death. In fact, any civilian who dared to question the noble master would be whipped to death. Stop it. It's just a little girl. I don't have to mess with her. Field waved his hand, signaling them to leave. Faced with the soul-searching question, Field calmly replied, I don't know when the Empire can achieve peace. Anyway, the people under my leadership are living well, and are not bullied. That's enough. As for the cruel war here, it is the Queen, and that damn hero king. As a northerner, I do not accept any moral accusations. You big shots, for the sake of profit, have made a mess of your actions. But you want to blame me who is innocent. How many dishes? How many drinks? Your Excellency is right. The cavalrymen around nodded sincerely. After walking around, they saw too many tragic scenes. Originally, the Night Territory was a Jedi, but now it looked more like a paradise. But the girl didn't believe it at all. She continued to hug her knees and stared at the lake stupidly. Leave her a piece of black bread, and let's go. Our Excellency is kind-hearted, and it's a reward for you. A cavalryman took out a piece of bread from the backpack of his warhorse and placed it next to the girl. The girl didn't respond, as if even her instincts had disappeared. Field didn't take it seriously, and continued to survey the terrain. After walking a few steps, he heard the sound of falling into the water. Field turned around, and didn't see the girl. He sighed, and continued to move forward. Such tragic scenes are everywhere. He couldn't take care of them at all. It's better to help those who want to live first. At the same time, Field's hatred for the decaying empire became deeper. Back to the temporary camp. Everyone began to rest. Field rubbed his hands and awakened the black crow of the night leader through his mental power. I'm in a bad mood. Let's play Happy Farm for a while. Chapter 555 Hydraulic Blower. Controlling Black Crow to open his eyes, Field discovered that Black Crow was in a birdcage on the top floor of the castle. The cold wind was howling outside. Most of the northern regions of the Griffin Empire have a continental climate, and the winter is long and cold. The Night Territory is slightly better because it is close to the sea. The coming winter will last from November to March of the following year. Every winter, countless wanderers will freeze to death in the north of the empire. When the free people are frozen bankrupt, new wanderers and slaves will be born. Under this tragedy, slavery cannot be abolished in the empire. Fragile individuals, if they do not even have the retreat of slaves, can only return to the embrace of Mother Nature. Fortunately, the fireplace in the house brought warmth. Rosaria, with her long smooth hair loose, wearing black pajamas with ribbons, sat at the desk with her head propped up, with an expression of deep thought. Wouldn't it be too strange to use poetry? It feels inappropriate to write in a straightforward manner. Scratching her head with a feather pen, Rosaria sighed. I have almost forgotten how to write letters. I hope Field will not laugh at me. Taking a peek, she was writing a letter to herself. But she only wrote the beginning. Ahem. What are you doing? Field coughed twice. Hey, Field. You're back. Rosaria's eyes lit up, and she jumped up happily, but immediately tidied her clothes, hid the bunny with its nose exposed, and said elegantly, Well, only the soul is back. Say something auspicious. Field laughed and scolded. Yeah. How is the battle going? Did you encounter a strong enemy? Rosaria asked with concern. When will you be back? It's okay now. I'll call you if there's any danger. There are no large-scale battles, and I can't go back in the short term. Rosaria instantly wilted, and her frustration was evident in her words. But I miss you. It won't be long. I have a feeling. Field couldn't bear to see others sad, so he patted her head to comfort her and changed the subject. Come with me for a walk, and see the development of the territory. When he arrived at the outskirts of Finchi Town, Field saw the towering city walls that were gradually becoming larger. There was a newly expanded ranch in the suburbs, and in the vast farmland, huge barns and slowly turning windmills had already been erected. Natural wind power will gradually replace livestock, and the remaining oxen can be put into agriculture, starting a positive cycle. Wow, the Baron is amazing. It's really big, worthy of being Lord Field. It must cost a lot of money to build a windmill. I bet the mill will increase its price. Your Excellency is so kind. Even if the price increases, I support it. Many villagers are still curious about the windmill and gather together to observe it, marveling at it. Finchi Town can no longer be considered a town. It looks like a small city, and it is a wealthy small city. How can there be a baby in the Night Territory? Field was surprised to find that there was a woman in the crowd holding a baby in her arms. That's right. We have been in the Night Territory for almost a year. It's not surprising that a newborn is born. Field, why are you paying attention to this? Are you going to eat children? Rosaria's brain circuit is amazing. Well, of course not. Field was embarrassed. Let's go. Let's go to the city hall to find Tisifa. I have to make some decisions and give them some help. Otherwise the death rate of the people in the territory will rise sharply this winter. When we arrived at the city hall, the little angel and the little fox were both there. The border fortress needs a lot of arrows to fight against the surrounding corpses. And the armor and weapons also need to be maintained. Godless, I need 20 craftsmen to be stationed in the border fortress. The little angel slapped the table and said. It was obvious that the two had been arguing for a long time. There are no extra workers. Godless's voice was low, but very decisive. Tisifa, the Night Territory is not short of military supplies. Now every place in the territory needs craftsmen. I can't give them to you. What are you arguing about? I will solve it. Rosaria held Black Crow and walked into the city hall gracefully, sitting in the main seat without any hesitation. Miss, what do you think we should do? Tisifa said seriously. The Bull Territory has been in chaos again recently, and there are bandits attacking from time to time. After thinking for a moment, Rosaria decisively gave up and asked Field, Sir, what do you think we should do? My lord is back. The two people who were arguing just now immediately became honest. Sorry, my lord, we didn't quarrel. Tisifa took the Black Crow from Rosaria's arms in the name of apology and said in a pinched voice, I am responsible for the city defense because I am too anxious, so my tone is a bit bad. No hurry, tell me the situation first. Isn't the bull territory guarded by Rebecca's family? How come there are bandits everywhere? Field was curious. I suspect their family has fled. Or perhaps met with an accident. Tisifa held Black Crow in his arms, whispering, I once flew over the bull castle to check. And the entire bull castle became an empty city. And at night, there were ghosts and wolves howling there. And even the border fortress could hear it. Field felt that his vision was blocked by the huge rabbit. And he felt that his breathing was blocked. Ah, there is such a thing. Thinking about it, Field shook his head gently. Don't worry about it for now. The territory has too little combat power. And you must not rush. These days, even if you are a noble, if you don't have enough strength, you may die inexplicably. Besides, it's hard for the caravan to travel alone. The weather is getting colder. And there are bandits everywhere. Tisifa sighed. You know, bandits are not just desperate civilians. Nobles also pretend to be bandits. That's right. For example, me. Field was sweating. There are still a lot of military supplies in the warehouse of Night Lord. Let's transport them from the warehouse first. After weighing the pros and cons, Field made a decision. I will assign you 5 craftsmen. I really can't have more. When I come back, I will kill all the bandits around. Thank you, sir. Tisifa nodded with satisfaction. By the way, little fox, how are the water wheel and steel going? Very good progress. According to your design, we made some adjustments. We have made a usable hydraulic blower, but we still need cattle to assist. Despite this, the output of iron has more than tripled. The little fox reported excitedly. She didn't know if it was an illusion, but she was not as timid as before. Sir, do you want to go and see it? I will come back to visit in person. You have done a good job and have already rushed towards automation. Field was very satisfied. You could also consider magic devices. You may be better at this. Maybe you can use the wind magic core to blow the wind? You dare to try it. And don't worry about being punished for failure. The knowledge that an individual can provide is limited. Only scientific and progressive ideas are eternal. Sir, I will try. Chapter 556. The supervisory team is here. Little Angel, how many babies have been born in the territory? Have you set people to count them? Field asked. Well, there seem to be 20 to 30, and the rest have not been born yet. I estimate that there will be 150 babies by the end of the year, and then there will be more babies one after another. These children will be authentic people of the Night Territory, which are 100 times more useful than captured slaves. And they have not been polluted by the Empire, and they are all blank slates. I have a task arrangement. Field motioned for them to take out paper and pen, then cleared his throat. If I remember correctly, there are dozens of cows in the Night Territory. Count the families with babies, and issue special tickets regularly, allowing them to exchange meat, eggs and milk at super low prices. Your Excellency is kind. Tisifa made a holy-like gesture, and said happily, You are worthy of being Lord Field. I didn't make a mistake. Field was almost embarrassed by the praise. He just wanted to retain as many future labor forces as possible. Why not give them money? Rosaria asked curiously. If they give them money, they will probably save it up, and may even guide the people to have children recklessly, and not care about them. Field explained. As for why it's not free, I hope they can develop a shopping habit. It's that simple. Yes, I'll do it right away. Tisifa nodded repeatedly. Also, little fox, let the blacksmith shop start making stoves. I designed the style. It's in the drawer, Field said proudly. Full production capacity. Make as many stoves as possible. This winter, I don't want anyone to freeze to death. After arranging the affairs of the territory, Field fell asleep. In the camp outside the goat village, they rested for 7 days, collected the previous gains, and took the chosen ones on a tour. Field built a simple wooden fort in the forest opposite the goat village. They agreed that if the war situation did not change, they would head west. The territory welcomed uninvited guests. A team of 50 people came to the outskirts of the camp. This is too hard to find. If I hadn't learned the whereabouts of this rat from the commander of the Third Army, I would definitely not find it. An imperial official sitting in the carriage kept complaining. He stuck his head out and was soaked by the humidity in the mountains, shrinking his neck. Damn it! It's just a simple task of looting supplies, and it took so long to execute it. What on earth do you do for a living? Who are you? As soon as the group approached the camp, they were discovered by the light cavalry patrolling in secret. 30 cavalrymen rushed out of the forest, surrounding all the escape routes of the convoy like a pack of wolves. I am Yim, the law enforcement officer of the Imperial Army, and the supervisor of the battle team. Im wanted to curse, after all. Field had been missing for 10 days, and as the son of the Earl, missing for 10 days was not good news. So he was urged to come and search. But looking at the perverted knight in front of him, who was full of murderous aura, and even licking the knife, Im opened his mouth, resisted cursing, but said arrogantly, "Call your baron out, he will know what to do." "You wait." A cavalryman immediately came back to report. Field, who heard the news, frowned and thought to himself, "Here they come. I guess the Imperial Army can't help it anymore, and will take the initiative to attack." The conspiracy that Ashina heard was likely to explode. Following the cavalry, Field called Ashina and found Yim's convoy. This guy was furious. "Damn it, Field. You are too rude." Yim was very angry. "Your lackeys have left me on the road for 2 hours. It's almost winter now. You know how cold it is in the mountains, right? Even black bears won't appear." "Sir, it won't be 2 hours." The wolf cavalry scratched his head stupidly. "This old dang is talking nonsense. It will take at most 5 minutes. Ha ha ha." Field didn't hold it back, and didn't mean to blame the cavalry. "Why are there lowly subhumans in your team? Are you traitors?" Im pointed at the cavalrymen and asked. "If we were traitors, your heads would have been removed." Ashina's voice was cold, full of unquestionable majesty. "You? Just mercenaries, don't be nervous." Field waved his hand, turned to ask him, "Dear sir, did you bring military supplies?" "Of course not, Mr. Field, please correct your attitude. Don't always think about the Empire giving you supplies, you should think about devoting yourself to the Queen." "Me?" Im shouted angrily. "I am the supervisory team. Where have you been these days? Are you afraid of the enemy and hiding?" "Of course not. We wiped out more than 300 infantrymen, a cavalry team of 1,000 people, and killed a total of 4 chosen ones." Field folded his arms, looked up at the sky, with a cool and pretentious expression. "Oh, just you?" Rolling his eyes, Im didn't believe a word. "Her Majesty the Queen only gave you some cannon fodder, mercenaries. How can you use them to fight against the chosen ones?" In his opinion, countryside barons are only worthy of waving flags and shouting. Killing the chosen ones is something that only the Imperial Army can do. "If you don't believe me, forget it." Field shrugged, and said coldly, "Tell me clearly why you are here. Is the Queen gathering the army and preparing to face the enemy head-on?" "How do you know?" Im was stunned for a moment, and took out the magic envelope and threw it to Field. "Listen. Return immediately. Tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Our Griffin Empire army will attack from the Undying Castle and crush the shameless rebels in all aspects. And I will serve as the supervisor of the Third Army." Im narrowed his eyes. "I will keep a close eye on you." Opening the magic envelope, it was indeed the special seal of the Imperial Army. And the order was consistent. The other party did not lie. But what is the difference between the Queen's order and a beggar's fart? The only difference is that the Queen may be a little more fragrant. I would never fight for her, not to mention the Queen's plan to send away 30,000 noble coalition troops. Only a fool would help her. By the way, Mr. Yim, I suddenly remembered that I have gained more than this. Field smiled. "You still want to brag?" Field's voice gradually became cold. "I also captured a rebel army of about 50 people, who pretended to be the Empire's envoys." "What do you mean?" Yim's face suddenly changed, and the pride on his face disappeared instantly, and the people in the convoy were in an uproar, and no matter how stupid they were, they knew what Field meant. "The letter is fake, despicable devil's minions, you rebels' tricks, you still want to deceive me." Field's face changed, and his fighting spirit surged, directly smashing the magic envelope into slag. "Except for this fellow Im. Kill them all. I will interrogate him personally." You are a traitor." Im was so scared that his pants almost flew off. He didn't expect that Field would dare to be so bold. So far, no noble dared to be rude to Her Majesty's people, and they all wanted to give their wives to him. "Kill!" Without any hesitation, the surrounding cavalry drove their horses with a grin and rushed over. Chapter 557 The Imperial Sun. The supervisory team was only powerful, but under the fierce swords, they all died. "Field, your crime of betrayal will be punished most cruelly. You will go to hell." Yim shouted tremblingly, but before he finished speaking, the guard beside him suddenly jumped up, stabbed him to death with a knife, and died of blood. "What's going on?" Field was shocked. The incident happened too quickly. "My lord, these guards seem to have poison in their mouths. It's really strange. They are not the Queen's men. Why do they carry these things? Ashina was confused. Maybe they are afraid that some secrets will be known by others. Field shrugged. It's about harming the Noble Coalition. They want them to supervise the battle. But they are afraid that the supervision team can't keep their mouths shut. After killing the supervision team, Field felt uneasy and irritated for no reason, and immediately urged the army to take action. We are ready to act. This is about to become a battlefield. We can't stay here any longer. The chaos of the war is the best time to escape. I didn't run around before because I didn't know the enemy's situation, and the major passes and roads were under the supervision of both sides. Running around is no different from committing suicide. In this battle, the rebels have a 6th level God-chosen one. If you run around, you may die. But it will be different after the war officially begins. Both sides will be in chaos. Field opened the small map. A large number of marks appeared on the edge of the map, including red marks of the rebels and green marks of our own. My lord, where should we go? Go west. As for the specific direction, it depends on the situation of the war. It is best not to run into a large-scale enemy army. Field pondered for a moment. Let's go to the periphery of the main battlefield first and observe the situation. Only when the main forces start the decisive battle will we have the opportunity to operate. The army pulled up the camp and marched westward in a mighty manner. What do you think will happen? Field turned to ask his own chosen one. I think the Empire has a great chance of winning. Ashina pondered for a moment. The Empire's army is extremely powerful. Even if the Queen's command is chaotic, the combat power is still unmatched. What's more, the Noble Coalition was completely annihilated by the enemy, which has no impact on the Queen's headquarters. We can even wait for the enemy to tire. Jellos also thought so. The rebels defeated more than 30,000 Noble Coalitions. How much physical strength can they have to fight? That makes sense. Although Field agreed with their views, he instinctively felt uneasy. I always feel that there will be mistakes. What trump card does the Empire have that dares to murder its own nobles on the battlefield? At most, it will be a stalemate. The Imperial army may be driven back into the fortress. Ashina scratched her ears. Just like the wars between humans and subhumans in the past, it will eventually become a stalemate, an offensive and defensive war, and it may even last for half a year. After marching for half a day, Field found a hidden mountain. Standing on the top of the mountain, he could see several main roads in the distance. The next day, at 10:15 in the morning, the legions of the Griffin Empire finished lunch early. Woo! A dull horn sound was heard. Several gates of the Immortal Castle opened at the same time, and a huge number of soldiers poured out. Soon, the noble army and the Imperial army stretched for dozens of miles. Officers at all levels, nobles kept issuing orders, and a large number of messengers and magicians, coming and going, delivered orders to the soldiers. Similarly, the continuous barricades, watchtowers, forts, earth walls stretched all the way. At least 80,000 regular troops, including engineers, cannon fodder and logistics. There are 170,000 or 180,000 on the battlefield, not to mention the rear. Field stood on the top of the mountain and looked out, and was shocked. This is the real strength of the Empire. What's more terrifying is that the Immortal Castle is only one of the 3 major attack directions. A large number of troops were also retained to guard against elves and demi-humans. The several armies at the front were the Noble Coalition, led by the highly respected Marquis Gaon. As one of the 7 electors of the Empire, he theoretically had the possibility of becoming Emperor. Elector is different from Marquis. It is a unique title, mainly related to etiquette. A powerful elector may be stronger than a Grand Duke, and a weak elector may not even be as strong as a Count. It would be more intuitive to understand elector as the earliest founder of the company, and the nobles as shareholders. Founders can be shareholders, but shareholders are not necessarily founders. The aristocratic structure of the empire is 1 emperor, 3 dukes, and 7 electors, except for the death of the Grand Duke of Golden Lion. The rest are all fine. Through the layers of spears and halberds, Elector Jarvan majestically scanned the army in front. He shook his red armor, and his powerful fighting spirit burst out. Although he was already 80 years old, he was still like a tiger coming down the mountain, and his power was undiminished. A girl holding a red ferocious bow, wearing a white and red long skirt-style military uniform, with a long ponytail, was heroic and valiant. She was shrouded by the divine power like red rays of light, and she was standing in the void. At a glance, I felt unprecedented oppression. Level 6. is the chosen one of the electors. Cilios, known as the son of the empire, and is an absolute genius. As a noble, Jelos knows a lot. If I remember correctly, she is only in her 40s. The youngest level 6 in the empire. It's really terrifying. Field nodded heavily. I remember that Marquis Jarvan's territory is not rich. And it is a miracle that a level 6 can appear. Under Jarvan's account, there are 16 or 17 outstanding level 5 chosen ones, wearing different family emblems, from different large families, and are only temporarily dispatched by the elector. The left army had 5,000 elite heavy cavalry. All of them were knights. And all of them had fighting spirit. The various family flags and personal flags were like an ocean. Dazzling. The right army was composed entirely of God's chosen guards. All of them were fighting spirit knights or magicians. The noble coalition was like this. Colorful. They looked loose, but they were related to each other. At 10 o'clock in the afternoon, the noble coalition, under the command of Elector Jarvan, had completed the battle formation. The formation was strict, and the cavalry on both wings were like the claws of an eagle, ready to attack at any time. Field praised, "It's not that pig-headed governor who's in charge. The momentum is really different. Cilios, march. I'm going to flatten the Songhai province." Jiawen swung his sword domineeringly and shouted, "Yes, Grandpa. I've said it so many times, I call it a position when I'm out." Jiawen glared at his granddaughter. "As you wish, Commander." Cilios nodded slightly, looked up at the sky. His orange-red eyes reflected the goddess's mark and the laws of the world. He raised the artifact bow in his hand and shot an arrow into the sky. Buzz. The sky was instantly dyed into a gorgeous red sea of flowers. Countless illusory flowers, all made of divine power, swayed in the wind according to some strange rules. Every rhythm would evolve into a mysterious law inscription. The divine power compressed to the extreme, gush out like a flood, enveloping everyone around, even Field who was wandering on the edge. Chapter 558. There is no ambush. Is the queen a good person? The realm of God, the sky garden of the praisers. The next moment, the life energy of the entire noble coalition army surged. Damn, the mercenaries have all become first-order life forms. Field was shocked, seeing that his own mercenary cannon fodder actually produced a false fighting spirit. Although it was false, the combat power blessing was real. What's more peculiar is that the guerrilla's pantheon belongs to the god of war pantheon, and the combat power has surged. Hey, I almost forgot that. The god of slaughter also belongs to the god of war pantheon. I got lucky. Gerlos put his hands on his hips and said, "More people is better." Asina and Philomena did not receive the blessing because of the conflict of pantheons, and they could only stare at each other. I've heard that the chosen ones will undergo 3 qualitative changes. It turns out that the 6th level will gain a domain. Field's own Do-Chi was also transformed into a unique god of war Do-Chi, and his strength more than doubled. At the same time, Field felt that his soul had become close to the other party. This is the 6th level. Ashina took a breath. Provide blessings to tens of thousands of people. Field pondered for a moment, opened his panel, saw the positive gain, and was shocked. Not only does it bless tens of thousands of people, but tens of thousands of people are blessing her. God's domain, the sky garden of the praiser exclusive. Goddess of the bow domain, friendly buff, provide massive life energy blessing, and convert friendly Do-Chi into temporary god of war Do-Chi, and add the heart fire mark. If the enemy god's chosen slaughters are non-god's chosen units, they will suffer the backlash of the rules, and be hit by the flame roar bow remotely. God's chosen buff. The surrounding territory and friendly forces will provide God's chosen with a continuous life gain. Within the scope of the domain, there is still one person in the army. The god of war. The God's chosen. His soul is immortal, and he will never retreat. Special effects cannot be viewed. Attack. For the glory of the empire. Cilios shouted, and the layers of divine power intertwined with the surrounding space. Like a dream. Fight for glory. Fight for the empire. Fight for the queen. The noble coalition of the Griffin Empire, the shout shook the sky, the overwhelming roar alone made the leaves fall. The footsteps were like thunder, marching towards the Songhai province. The monsters and birds along the way were scared to death, and the small rebels, who did not escape, were crushed like mosquitoes. It is hard to imagine that Her Majesty the Queen would send away such an army. Field was amazed. Although the nobles are a bit of a jerk, but when it comes to fighting a war, they are really decisive. The noble army, seemed to be unaware of the Queen's bizarre plan, and was only focused on gaining glory. The noble coalition army was almost invisible, and the Imperial army had just finished forming its battle array. The most eye-catching ones were the 2 Griffin Knights, each with 1,000 people. Similarly, there were 2 extremely gorgeous chosen ones floating in the air, one holding a long sword, and the other with a snake demon phantom behind her. Field estimated that they should be the 2 6th-level chosen ones of the Imperial army. However, the Imperial army's battle array was not rigorous, and the chosen ones did not expand their fields, but marched directly in a loose and casual state. Lord Fernando, we need to deploy our domain before we can meet the enemy. The long-legged lady holding the holy sword of the Libra, with her long golden robe fluttering and her long hair almost dragging down to her feet, glanced at the distance with her noble eyes. Also, we cannot be out of touch. Otherwise it will be difficult to provide support. Miss Sword Saint, I am in command now. Fernando waved his hand. I will fully implement the Queen's will. Don't worry. As for the domain, the Noble Coalition has already deployed it. If it is activated again, it will put pressure on the soldiers. According to reliable intelligence, the other side also has many 6th-level God Chosens. If we don't deploy our domain, we may be caught off guard. I am the Marshal, and now I represent the will of the Queen and the Empire. Fernando was obviously impatient. Don't question my orders on the battlefield. Fernando is the Queen's uncle, and he is of noble birth. As you wish. Hearing this, the royal sister hugged the sword in her arms tightly. Her eyes were cold, and she stopped talking. Okay, everyone march forward. Fernando waved his hand. His voice was a little hoarse. Follow the planned route, and march towards Shanghai province. In fact, Fernando was uneasy. He knew that the first time he was a commander in his life, it would be the last time. The Queen did not want to defeat the rebels in one wave, but to bury the stubborn aristocracy. This is all for the Empire. We must unite, to gather the power of the Griffin Empire. Fernando sighed, and secretly said, anyway, I'm dead, sigh, it's all for my niece. He made a major mistake in command, and completely offended the nobles, and the 6th-level gods chosen, and his second half of life was probably gone. Everyone march. Fernando shouted. Yes. Fight for Her Majesty the Queen. The Imperial Legion shouted, and set off immediately. The Imperial Legion, not counting the scattered mercenaries and cannon fodder, is still mighty. There are guards from the core provinces of the Empire, and sharp soldiers from various provinces. The overall quality of the soldiers is much better than that of the Noble Legion, but the momentum is much worse. Sir, should we set off to the west immediately? For the first time, Ashina felt oppression and terror. Facing so many chosen ones, anyone would be afraid. If they are not afraid, are they still human? Only Philomeni looked indifferent. The reconnaissance skills of the chosen ones have been used by people all the time. But the Imperial army had something to hide, and the scouts were not active, and no one came to ask Field. No need, if we run around now, we will either run into the enemy's guns, or be suspected by our own people. We are at the edge of the army, and we can just move forward with the army normally. And we are far away from the main force. The enemy will not send out a large army to wipe us out. It's like 2 swordsmen who are going all out, but they only focus on each other's vital points. After all, every move may reveal a flaw. Following the army, they marched forward in a mighty manner. They could not see even a dog along the way, let alone the enemy, but Field's feeling of uneasiness became heavier. Where is the ambush site? We are almost leaving the mountains and reaching the plains. Could the enemy ambush on the plains? What a joke. Field felt that his heart was about to jump out of his chest. He rode on his horse, and stared intently at the Noble Coalition in the distance. However, the Noble Coalition passed through the dangerous mountains and forests, and stepped into the plains, so there was no chance for an ambush. Ah? Field snorted, and shook his head lightly. There is no ambush. It seems that the Queen is not that outrageous. Also, who would harm their own army? Ashina blushed and scratched her head. Sorry. Sir, I didn't expect it either. It's all my fault. Before she could reply, a calm voice came from behind. Hello, Baron. We meet again. Huh? Field was startled. This voice. Chapter 559 Wrong Ambush. Field turned around, and saw the girl with bandages at the lake. I clearly remembered that she jumped into the lake after sighing. How could she appear here? She was as horrible as an old corpse in a mountain village. The soldiers around were even more confused. No one noticed when the girl appeared. It's bad. Field's eyelids jumped suddenly. You are God's chosen one, not an ordinary person at all. Seeing that her lord was shocked, Ashina immediately blocked Field with a gun. That's right. Dear Baron Field. Give me the Book of Wisdom. And in exchange, I will save your life. The girl's eyes were still filled with numbness and sadness. And she looked like an ordinary girl in distress. It turned out to be the chosen one of Chaos. Field knew what the other party was. Only the chosen one of Chaos had perfect camouflage ability. Not only was he immune to detection, but he could also disguise himself as an ordinary person or other gods. More importantly, the chosen one of Chaos was very interested in human wisdom and had been searching for the Book of Wisdom. You got it right, I'm really surprised. The girl smiled. I know, you won't give me the Book of Wisdom honestly, but it doesn't matter, you will give it to me. Why do you think so? Field signaled Ashina not to panic, and stepped forward to ask. Because my wisdom can see the future, you and your army will be pushed into the final desperate situation by the rebels. The girl smiled. As long as you give me the Book of Wisdom, I will save you. The other party had no intention of taking action, but jumped onto a carriage loaded with grain, and waited patiently with his legs hugged. I came with good intentions, and I have enough patience. Also, thank you for the bread. With kindness. Field stepped forward, stretched out his hand to pinch the girl's cheek, sometimes flattened it, sometimes rounded it, and then into a triangle, but what he was thinking about was what she said. The girl was confused. She had never seen such a scene before, and immediately said angrily, I am a disaster, if you offend me again. Wait, the rebels are in desperate situation. Save my life. Could it be? Field looked at the safe and sound noble coalition in the distance, and then looked at the loosely marching Imperial army. His heart skipped a beat, and immediately clapped his hands. Cold sweat dripped from his forehead. I know, the rebels deceived everyone. Their goal from beginning to end is not the noble coalition, but the Imperial Legion, the Queen's direct troops. Field hurriedly urged the soldiers, drop the Griffin flag, switch to the Knight flag, and run towards the noble coalition. Ah! Everyone was stunned. Their own troops, without any hesitation, acted immediately. The mercenaries and peasants were in an uproar, and there was a chaotic noise. Only the chosen one of Chaos nodded slightly. Very clever, but it's too late. From the beginning of the war, the Empire and you were doomed. On the other side, Fernando frowned. It's strange, how come we didn't run into the enemy's army? Didn't Her Majesty say the enemy would raid the nobles? I didn't even allow the domain to be deployed, giving them a chance to be surrounded. Before I finished thinking, I heard a shout. The domain of God, the cage of the saint. The domain of God, the gathering demon observatory. 2 magnificent domains were deployed in an instant, each occupying half of the sky. The 2 sixth-ranked divine selections from Frambaya and Dragon Tower appeared at the same time, and their divine power bloomed like rolling waves. It was like a mirage. On one side was the golden cage suppressing the sky, and on the other side was the huge stars in motion. Although the 2 were friendly forces, the ruled domain still broke out in conflict. The space at the edge of the domain collapsed, and the constant grinding turned into a dark abyss of divine power, making a muffled and loud noise. The divine power of the domain instantly covered the sky and earth, and with an unstoppable momentum, enveloped the Imperial Coalition forces. The soldiers on one side of the cage felt like they were filled with lead, and even lifting their legs was extremely difficult. The Xingqian side was even more direct. Continuous meteorites fell, all smashing into the crowd, blood and flesh flying everywhere. Piles of soldiers, knights or mages were crushed into slag. Enemy attack. The 2nd Legion needs medical support. We were also attacked. The 7th Cavalry Regiment suffered heavy damage. Damn, where did the enemy come from? The Imperial army was in chaos in an instant, like ants being poured with boiling water, in a mess. The enemy's 6th-level god chosen did not attack the Imperial army. Instead, he rushed forward, tearing the space, pulling the 6th order of the Imperial army into another space, forcing a duel. The 6th order god chosen of the Imperial army wanted to release his domain, but the domain formed around him sealed the law, and he could not fight back in a short time. The scary thing is, the enemy's domain still suppressed the world, but his own domain did not unfold. What's going on? Fernando was dumbfounded. What is the Noble Coalition doing? How could the enemy get around to our rear? Adam, the son of the minister, was also dumbfounded. He turned around and yelled, No! Your ambush was wrong. You should attack the Noble Coalition. We are not wrong. Jasmine, Adam's chosen one, laughed sinisterly. Destroying the Noble Coalition will not destroy the Griffin Empire. Our original plan was to destroy the Imperial Legion. After that, she flipped her hands, and the blue space waves spread out in all directions. The traitors in the Imperial Legion also began to cast spells. A quick-reacting warrior wanted to stop it, but was blocked by the hidden traitor, and the two sides fought together. Why didn't you discuss it with me? Adam was anxious. Jasmine, don't you trust me? Who do you think you are? Jasmine sneered. You don't deserve to know the real plan of the adults. Seeing his chosen one talking to him like this, Adam was furious. Damn it. Damn it. Be careful that I will die with you. Don't forget. You are now contracted by me. Haha. My identity as the chosen one is fake. Do you think the space god chosen are everywhere? You will find out soon. Following Jasmine's line of sight, Adam subconsciously looked up at the sky. For a moment, people were in a panic, and they didn't know who the enemy was, where the enemy was, and what the enemy wanted to do. The sixth level of his own army disappeared, only the occasional tremor of the sky, indicating that the sixth level god chosen were fighting. The surrounding space gradually became illusory and distorted. Who can tell me what exactly happened? Fernando's face was pale. Because I am now the space god chosen, I have hidden the army. Another sixth level god chosen torn open the space and appeared, with autumn water eyes and swan jade neck. No matter her figure or appearance, there is nothing wrong with her. She is pure and innocent. The only flaw is that she looks sickly, as if she is not in good condition. I am both the new hero king and her god-chosen Audrey, a former comrade in arms of the Imperial Army. Come and fight. Chapter 560 Blood of the Empire. Fernando was dumbfounded. You damn traitor, you can still fight. How is that possible? Shouldn't you be dying? Stop talking nonsense. Audrey stretched out her slender hand, summoned a transparent magic cube. Sixth level magic skill, space trick. The next moment, blue streams of light gathered, and the surrounding large groups of soldiers, mountains, and forests were instantly cut, and the cut surface was as smooth as a mirror. A huge space gate rose from the ground, and after it was opened, the other end was actually connected to other cities. Countless rebels and enemy troops roared out from the middle space gate. Stop them quickly. Magician. Send a message to the noble army to come back for help. We were ambushed by the enemy. Fernando felt very disappointed. But he gritted his teeth and shouted to fight. Hold the position. Wait for the noble army to come back for help. Hee. Hero King Audrey. After releasing a magic skill once, will no longer release magic skills to the Imperial Army. She must ensure that she is in a sufficient state to deal with the potential 6th level god's choice. Every attack of the 6th level even affects the fate of the country. If you wantonly release your magical skills to kill the enemy, then you will definitely be killed by the enemy's 6th level. Warriors. Audrey's deafening voice echoed in the sky. Here. Countless rebels shouted excitedly. Most of them were desperate slaves, farmers, and low-level soldiers. Hunger, disease, heavy taxes, war, corruption, we have burned our lives, sold our dignity, just to survive. However, the jackals and lackeys of the Empire treat us as ants to be trampled on at will, clowns to be used for fun. The more food you grow, the more you suffer from hunger. The more money you make, the more impoverished you become. The more you cherish your family, the more you are separated from your wife and children. The reason is that the Empress is stupid and cruel, the powerful are bloodthirsty and greedy, and they exploit people without limit. Today, let the powerful people of the Empire see how powerful the ants they despise are. I will dye the whole sky red with their blood. Audrey waved her hand. Attack. Avenge our lost families. Attack. Attack. The densely packed rebels roared madly, like rotting corpses, and had no idea what death was. Among the rebels, there were even a large number of old, weak, women and children, all holding tattered weapons. They rushed out of the space gate frantically, and instantly filled the entire field of vision. The first to launch the attack were the light cavalry of Fremaya. Unlike the archers of the Night Lord, their light cavalry had 4 weighted javelins on their backs. The light cavalry on both sides, like the wings of a crane, flew past the front of the Imperial Army. The spearmen of the Imperial Army mistakenly thought that they were going to charge, and hurriedly raised their spears, but were pierced through by the flying javelins. Swish, swish, swish. Although the commander did not give orders, the Imperial Army, with its rich combat experience, still gathered large and small corps, throwing arrows and fighting back. The attacking rebels fell one after another like cutting wheat. Shoot arrows quickly. Magician. Don't save magic. Use large-scale damage. A commander kept shouting. Defeat those untouchables. Without waiting for the Imperial attack. The 3,000 magician legions of the Dragon Tower Empire have finished chanting the spell. Layers of blue protective shields are opened. And arrows can only be deflected. At the same time, various attack magics are blasted out. The ordinary first-level fireball magic. Just blasted out from the staff. The 6th-level God's Chosen Domain. The Magic Gathering Observatory is activated. The stars in the sky burst into red light. And the fireball magic actually continued to gather energy and turned into a 3rd-level magic, Pyroblast. Similarly, the cheap wind blade, the rockfall magic, all turned into a powerful hurricane. The landslide magic, the gathering magic Starfell, which had the effect of greatly strengthening magic. All the magic of the rebels was greatly strengthened. What was even more terrifying was that the magician released the 1st-level magic, which was like playing. So the firepower was endless. Let those muggles who don't understand magic taste the power of the Dragon Tower wizard. The powerful magic was thrown into the crowd. In an instant, the blood and flesh of the Imperial army flew everywhere, and the entire legion was blown into slag. Then, the rebels' crossbowmen and the Imperial army's archer legion started a fierce exchange of fire. Wow! A Dookie knight, whose head was smashed by flying magic stones, fell to the ground in pain and kept shouting, save me, it hurts." The chosen one, Liven Rhoda, was the army's medical assistant. Bearing the arrows flying around, she stretched out her hand to release the gentle healing skill, while comforting, "Don't panic, I will save you. Go quickly." The Dookie knight barely opened his only remaining intact eye, but saw the Franmaya dragon cavalry crushing from the air, and he jumped up and roared with Dookie, "Fight for the Empire." The next moment, a huge scaled dragon fell like a bomb, and directly blew the Dookie knight to pieces. Level 5 Divine Skill, Heaven Burial. The chosen one on the dragon's back, with a blue flag fluttering on her spear. She thrust out with her spear, and the surrounding space instantly collapsed and shattered, and Liven Rhoda only felt a blackness in front of her eyes. In fact, the area within 100 meters was completely shrouded in darkness, and black magic flames burst forth, and several phalanxes of soldiers were directly burned into black powder. Well, this is death. It's such a pity I didn't see the revival of the Empire. Liven Rhoda opened her eyes nostalgically, hoping to see through the darkness brought by the Heaven Burial skill. But she didn't see the light after all. Her dream had always been to become the best pastry chef in the Griffin Empire. But unfortunately it never came true. The 5th-rank God Chosen of the Empire also began to fight with the 5th-rank God Chosen of the rebels. And every blow was earth-shattering. Boom, boom, boom. The continuous attack of the Dragon Knights before smashed a large number of the front rows of the Empire army. And 4 large square formations collapsed in succession. The melee soldiers of the rebels, holding crude weapons, rushed all the way, and actually killed the archers and magician legions in the rear. And the guards of the Empire went to rescue them. The two sides fought fiercely. The Imperial soldiers frantically stabbed the rebels' stomachs with their halberds, and the rebels fought back with pitchforks. When they couldn't pull out their weapons, they attacked with their fists and teeth, and were finally blasted into pieces by war beasts or magic. Heads rolled everywhere, blood gushed out from chests and necks, and both sides tried their best to attack with all their strength. The sound of the dissociation of the Imperial Chosen Ones was almost unheard. After only half an hour of fighting, the ankles of both sides were even soaked in blood. No matter how noble a person is, the blood is red. The tenacity of the Imperial army even exceeded the imagination of the rebels. The supervisors of both sides were madly slaughtering deserters. Fernando saw that a strong warrior was blasted to the point that only half of his body was left, and he could only crawl on the ground. He trembled and said, "Go back to the Immortal Castle and run away." Chapter 561, Back to Support. "Sir, we cannot retreat now. Our warriors have not been defeated yet. I believe in the soldiers of the Empire." The 5th-level God Chosen guarding on the side angrily said, "The noble coalition in front will come back to support us soon. Retreating now is tantamount to committing suicide. The real defeat happens in the rout, not in a frontal battle. Then you fight, I'll let you go." Fernando didn't even call the guards, but turned around and ran. "Ah!" The guards were dumbfounded. The commander's central army began to flee, which immediately caused the Imperial army that had just been gathered to collapse. The soldiers who were still fighting fiercely the previous second threw down their weapons and ran away the next moment. Deserters would not think about what to do if they ran into the enemy again without weapons. They only had one thought in their minds: escape. The moment the great defeat began, a massacre 100 times more brutal than the previous battle began. The overwhelming enemy cavalry, like herding sheep, chased the fleeing soldiers and killed them. The fleeing soldiers pushed each other, and if they were unfortunate enough to fall to the ground, they would be trampled into meat paste. If they ran slowly, they would be beheaded by the enemy knights. One cavalryman could chase hundreds of people and kill them. Stop! Field, who was originally heading towards the noble coalition, suddenly ordered the army to stop. Turning around and looking at the main battlefield, he heard countless screams. Field's thoughts turned. A gleam of light flashed in his eyes, and he snorted coldly. The Imperial army was defeated, and I believe the chicken-eating competition will be held soon. The direct army suffered heavy casualties, while the nobles did not suffer much loss. The host was weak, and the guest was strong. There was no doubt that the empire would fall apart. Instead of being too pessimistic, Field was excited. He secretly said, "The opportunity has come, and it is faster than I thought. Sir, let's retreat quickly. I feel that the enemy cavalry is chasing us." Ashina's ears kept moving, like a sensitive little radar. "Don't retreat yet. The noble coalition is coming back to help." Field jumped on his horse with a gun. It seems that there are many loyal people, or they may not have realized what the defeat of the Imperial army means. Field saw on the small map that the elite of the noble army was coming back to help. "We will join the noble army and fight the rebels fiercely." "What the hell? Sir, why did you run away just now? Now that the main force has been defeated, what are we going to do?" The mercenary Captain Kwaijian was scared pale. "Run away quickly. Sir, I have an 80-year-old father and an 18-year-old mother at home. I can't die." "Yes, it's too late for the noble army to come back to help now," another mercenary shouted. "This is an order." Just a glance at them, they shut up and behaved. "But we will lose." Ashina didn't know what Field wanted. She whispered, "My lord, do you want something?" "I'm not afraid of death. I'll lead the army to get it. You leave quickly." "What nonsense are you talking about?" Field laughed angrily, and gave Ashina a shot of sugar-roasted chestnuts. Then, "Time is running out. We must prepare for war," Field ordered loudly. Seeing that Ashina and others were also confused, Field didn't have time to explain too much, but said solemnly, "Believe me, we must fight now." "Okay, no matter what decision you make, I am willing to follow you." Ashina was full of fighting spirit. Field knew better than anyone that if 3 empire-level countries were fighting, it would mean death if you rashly got involved. Moreover, the Empress and the Imperial officials were even more vicious. They kept digging holes for him, and even wanted to kill him. As a result, they suffered backlash. If he had helped them fight before, wouldn't he have been a masochist? This was also one of the reasons why he had watched coldly, and refused to join the battle before. There was no benefit in winning, and it would be a reincarnation if he lost. He was stupid enough to fight the lion. The Imperial army deserved to be destroyed. Good meow. Good meow. But the Imperial army was defeated, and ran in all directions. He had to support them with the nobles and go upstream. "It doesn't matter if I'm defeated, this is a strategic decision." Field let out a long breath. "It's time to improve my prestige, collect the defeated soldiers, and use them for my own benefit. Turn the army around, and march immediately. Griffin Empire, your loyal baron is back." After turning around and marching for only a quarter of an hour, Field ran into the rebel scouts. "Ha ha, run away again. You useless Imperial people like lice, see where you can run to." More than 50 light cavalrymen mistakenly thought Field was a lost defeated soldier, and rushed over in a hurry. In their eyes, these are all military merits and spoils of war. Come on. Come on. I will take a step back now, and I will lose," Field shouted. "Shoot!" There was a creaking sound of string pulling, and hundreds of feather arrows flew out from the knight army, hitting the enemy knights head-on. A round of solid arrow rain. The horses fell over, and 15 or 16 knights were shot and fell off their horses. "Attack!" Field took the lead. His fighting spirit surged, and his lance in his hand fluttered like a butterfly, stabbing 4 knights in a row, not giving the opponent a chance to regret. The knight army rushed forward and killed all the enemies. "Keep going." The main battlefield came into view, blood like a river, corpses everywhere, broken flags everywhere. Field's timing was just right. Elector Jarvan of the Noble Coalition came. He had received intelligence, and after a glance, His brows furrowed. What's going on? The Imperial army was defeated, and even the field was not deployed. Too careless. Her Majesty the Queen should not appoint a newcomer as commander. Sirius looked down at the fierce war underground. His face was cold, but he did not rush to take action, but guarded against the real opponent. I am the Hero King, you are free. Audrey flashed over. The Griffin Empire was defeated. No one needs the Emperor anymore. All the nobles are no longer bound by the Queen. Traitor, I don't want to listen to your nonsense. Sirius picked up the red bowstring. For arrows gathered out of thin air, the astonishing murderous aura made Audrey's face look extremely ugly. The surrounding earth trembled and stirred. Many soldiers even had difficulty standing. Here! The arrows blasted out, sweeping the surging red light, tearing the sky. Audrey held the artifact in her hand, opened hundreds of space barriers, and collided fiercely with the arrow. The brilliant explosion brought rolling heat waves. With just one blow, Audrey was blown to the point of bleeding from the corner of her mouth. Hoo-hoo, the injury has not healed yet. It is too difficult to fight now. But I must buy time. Listen to me, Sirius. I don't want to listen to your nonsense. A traitor. With a loud buzzing sound, Sirius shot another white arrow. The brilliant arrows came like meteors. Too bullying, I have to say it. Audrey dodged, with a dark face, using divine power, and shouted to the noble coalition that came. Listen, it is the Empire that betrayed you. Their plan is to let you die, and they will wait for you to tire themselves out. Chapter 562. The lips and teeth are cold. The Griffin Queen's plan is to destroy you, to gather power and land. And you are just a stumbling block on her road to hegemony. The shocking news detonated all the nobles in the coalition. Ah? It's impossible. Why would the Queen do this? No wonder the battle is losing ground. Everyone was furious and talked about it. But there were also a few nobles who smiled knowingly. They knew. Of course. That was why they did not detect the enemy army, and some even defected to the enemy. This is the order we stole. And there is a secretly recorded voice stone. After that, Audrey threw the package in her hand. Swoosh. Sirius shot the package with an arrow. And she said arrogantly, this is a matter within the Empire, and we will settle the score after the war. But you attracted thugs from the enemy country and slaughtered my compatriots. You must die. After that, her domain shone brightly, squeezing out the two domains of the enemy army, and the sky was squeezed by three completely different domains. With their own domain, the soldiers of the Imperial army finally felt better. You are worthy of being my granddaughter. Elector Jarvan nodded in approval, then sighed. The Golden Griffin family has ruled for too long, and has forgotten the glory of the Griffin Empire. But we are all nobles favored by God, and we must not abandon the glory that belongs to us. The betrayal of the Griffin family will have to be discussed after the war. Otherwise, we will be the next to be slaughtered. Kill those who are willing to charge with me. This was said passionately, but the Queen had lost the hearts of the people, and seeing the Imperial army in the distance collapse into ashes, only a few people were willing to continue fighting. Most of the nobles watched coldly and talked about it. Don't forget the Golden Griffin family's criminal record. The Golden Lion Grand Duke of the North was killed by their family. The Empire has been ruled by their family for too long. Don't forget that every noble has the right to ascend the throne. The Queen betrayed the holy light. She is no longer legitimate. The Emperor of the Griffin Empire must be a devout believer in the holy light. That's right. This is useless. I don't want to die. After that, the noble coalition scattered like birds and beasts, and half of them ran away in an instant. Ha ha ha. Audrey covered her mouth and laughed. The Griffin Empire should have been destroyed long ago. Destroy the Empire? From the moment you attracted the enemy, you were not worthy. Sirius said unhappily. We blocked the elves, orcs and subhumans in the north. It's not your turn to destroy them. Charge. Charge. The remaining noble coalition army, roaring and crashing into the high-spirited rebel army, started a brutal battle. But with so many people missing, the noble coalition army could only barely fight the rebel army, while trying its best to cover the surviving Imperial soldiers' retreat. We must preserve the strength of the Empire. Otherwise the Franvians will march straight in, and we will become their slaves. The Elector Jarvan roared. However, the noble army was small in number. After only a short battle, many nobles turned around and left, thinking about conserving their strength. Just when Jarvan was becoming more and more powerless, suddenly, there was a loud shout. The old Marquis is right. The lips and teeth are cold. Field jumped out from a hillside. Even without the Queen's order, we must fight this battle. Innocent people are trembling under the iron hoofs of foreigners. We cannot let foreigners enter our homes. Field shook off the blood on his spear. For the people. For ourselves. Charge. The Knight Army, which has complete strength, waved the wolf flag and the muddy griffin flag, and launched an attack on the rebels. Well said, without lips, the teeth will be cold. Although it was the first time he heard this saying, Jia Wen felt it was particularly appropriate. He wanted to see which noble dared to come to support, but the spears and lances around him made him unable to be distracted. Even Cilios could not help but nod his head slightly. Stubborn remnant of the queen die. Audrey was annoyed, and her divine power bloomed, and she was about to use the 6th level divine skill to slaughter ordinary people. Cilios was faster, raising his hand and pulling Audrey into another space, starting a one-on-one duel exclusive to the 6th level. The chosen who came to support the noble army also found opponents to fight. Most of the 5th and 4th levels were very busy, which gave Field more room to operate. Soldiers and chosen of the Empire, especially the masterless chosen. Come to me. I am the commander of the 3rd Army. Field raised his arms and shouted, ignoring the premise of the Vanguard Army, and packaged himself as the commander of the entire 3rd Army. Anyway, the battle has come to this point. If I wear a skirt and pretend to be the queen, people will probably believe me. Cowardly Griffin Empire people. Look at my magic spear. Connie. How to crush you to death. A panting and bloody chosen of the Dragon Tower Kingdom hurriedly summoned 400-500-man legions around him, and marched forward in formation. She herself exploded the 4th order divine power, and the special magic spear in her hand burst out the power of magic and divine power. Smiling fiercely, Connie was already panting with exhaustion, but the excitement of defeating the enemy country made her gather her strength again, move forward, crush the enemy army. What a bullshit magician. I am also good at magician. Come on. Come on. I will sweep your hood all over the ground. What are you talking about? Connie felt that the other party was very humiliated for some reason. You little bastard, I will sentence you to death. I will also make you explode the defeat animation. After Field shamelessly provoked, he shouted with a gun, Mercenary Corps, attack. Yes. The mercenaries were pale, and shouted in a mess, even though they had 1,600 people, and were strengthened by their own domain. But seeing the bloody battle in the distance, their pants got wet instantly. Swoosh. 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 A bunch of javelins and arrows flew out from the enemy's army, and their own army also shot crossbows. The arrows flew like locusts, and the sound of arrows hitting flesh, or the sound of arrows piercing wooden shields, was endless. As both sides advanced, they left corpses behind. After 3 waves of arrows were fired at each other, the distance was shortened to the point where it was impossible to shoot arrows, and a fierce hand-to-hand fight began instantly. The mercenaries raised their spears horizontally, and madly twisted them towards the rebels, and the rebel swords and guns also stabbed at them mercilessly. But in the blink of an eye, 70 to 80 mercenaries fell in the front row. But the rebels had experienced a great battle, and their strength was even more depleted. About 100 of them were stabbed. Hold on. Stab. Stab those bastards to death. Yes. Stab their nostrils. Kuaijian's legs trembled wildly. But for the sake of his salary, he could not retreat. He could only curse wildly. Connie, the god chosen of Dragon Tower, looked around with a gloomy face. Seeing that no god chosen came out of Field's formation, she was no longer vigilant. She secretly thought even the main force was defeated, and only a few remnants were left, which was just right for military merit. Boy, remember? This is the power of Dragon Tower. Connie's magic gun burst out with terrifying murderous aura, and she took a step forward, and the ground cracked. Die. Who is afraid of who? Remember? This is the value of night territory. Fill you on Manai. Use the flame fist on her. Chapter 563. Stand up to the destructive power of Philomena. If you don't tell them, most people will think that they are the chosen ones of the god of fire. In addition, the battlefield has been so chaotic. Who cares about the gods? Stop bluffing. Connie said so. But she was experienced in many battles. Of course she would not attack rashly. There is too little power left. Let's try it with magic first. The artifact magic gun glowed blue, and the overwhelming magic water column shot out, which was strengthened to the extreme by the magic gathering field of the sky. It will be a tough battle. Field frowned. What a coincidence. The opponent happens to be the chosen one of Dragon Tower. Ashina. If Philomena is in a bad situation, Go to help her. The Dragon Tower Empire and the Griffin Empire are completely different. They value magic and despise fighting. In theory, magic has little damage to the Chosen One. But unfortunately, Philomeni's magic resistance should be the lowest among all the Chosen Ones. Leave it to me. Ashina nodded repeatedly. However, the next second, Field almost laughed out loud. Connie controlled the magic water column, shooting it in a dazzling manner. The magic water column was like a cage, blasting towards Philomena in all directions, but it did not attack her. Did you see through my intention? Why didn't you move at all? Connie expected the other party to dodge, revealing her flaws and secrets, but she found that Philomena did not move at all. Philomena blinked her eyes. To be honest, she did not react. With a cunning look in her eyes, Philomena said with disdain in a cold voice, "Too lazy to hide, magic is useful to the Chosen One? You're Chosen One of Dragon Tower. Could it be that you don't even know the divine skills, and have to rely on magic to fight? Switch someone who knows the divine skills." Okay, you piss me off, bitch. Suddenly feeling like a clown, Connie blushed instantly. 4th level divine skills, Magic God Pendant. The surging divine power was like a rolling wave, and the long skirt was blown by the turbulent flow of divine power, and the blood scab that had already solidified was shattered into powder. The majestic blue divine power, wrapped around the magic gun, gathered into a pillar-like energy giant gun. Connie had just fought for a long time, but her high morale allowed her to constantly break through her own limits. Danger! A warning voice came from a distance. That's a 4th level divine skill. Get out of the way. A god chosen carrying a large shield ran with the fleeing soldiers. After finally seeing the neatly formed army, she saw the enemy's 4th level god chosen attacking, and her heart sank. She subconsciously closed her eyes. It's over. In her opinion, the level of young god chosen would not be too high. Isn't it just the 4th level? I'm waiting for the 4th level divine skill. Philomena was not afraid at all. She had never been afraid of a direct battle. Standing on her snow-white toes, Philomena rose lightly, revealing her gorgeous swan-like neck, and her beautiful curves were hard to look away. Holy flame birds flew out in all directions. Philomena's fighting skills gradually matured, and she began to try to coordinate her divine skills. 3rd level divine skill, End of the Sacrifice Explosion. Golden light bloomed around her, so gorgeous. It's just a pitiful 3rd level. It turns out that he was just pretending. Connie almost laughed out loud. Your lord has no concept of power, and he actually sent people to die. It's more than enough to kill you. As easy as killing a chicken. Arrogant! After saying that, the magic gun in his hand, carrying a great power, smashed down fiercely. However, the next moment, she was stunned to find that the collision and confrontation she imagined did not happen. Something's wrong. What's going on? Is the divine power dissolved? Connie was shocked to find that the divine skills she had condensed were being absorbed crazily by the opponent. As if punching cotton, the energy spear was shrinking rapidly, and even his own magic spear was buzzing and trembling. Is it a defensive skill? Connie blurted out in shock. Too overbearing. It can actually offset 70%. A dignified 4th level skill. It can only emit less than 30% of its power. It's like a joke. It's an explosive skill. I'm not interested in defense. Philomena smiled coldly. Like a black hole, a large amount of blue energy was absorbed by Philomena, mixed with the terrifying power of destruction. The energy was compressed to the extreme, and the gold color was also dyed blue. When the energy reached a certain critical point, a loud hum was heard. The blue hemispherical explosion, with Philomena as the core, bloomed in all directions, mixed with a large amount of Tianming bird soul fire, mixed in the explosion and flew towards Connie. How is it possible? This power is clearly the 4th level. Connie was the first to bear the brunt of the terrifying energy hitting her body, as if she was run over by a speeding train. All the bones in her body rang, and blood oozed from her skin everywhere, which was extremely miserable. She couldn't believe that she, a dignified 4th level god chosen, was blown away by a 3rd level attack. Cry feeling her soul tremble. Connie was in midair, barely opening her eyes, and a series of dawn birds were flying towards her face. The speed was so fast that a series of afterimages exploded in the air. Soul attack? No. Move quickly. Biting her tongue hard, Connie didn't care about her bad condition at the moment. Even if she was left with sequelae, it was better than death. She immediately forced her body to move. She knew very well that once she was hit by a soul attack, she might never have a chance to fight back. Get out of here. The magic gun in her hand was wielded to the extreme, sweeping, cutting down, poking forward, dancing in a dazzling manner. Connie, in a half-crippled state, continuously blasted more than 30 flying Tianming birds. The blood on her hands was dried by the blazing flames, and her clothes were burned. The war beasts not far away cast restless glances at her, thanks to the trainers who scolded her, otherwise Connie would have to fight with the beasts. She could no longer squeeze out any more divine power in her body. What kind of skills are these? Connie could no longer remain calm, her pupils trembled, although it was hard to accept, but an incredible thought popped up in her mind. If she is level 4, I might not be able to withstand a single blow. The Lamani's face was not looking good either, unable to maintain her floating state, her body staggered and fell down, and her white neck was a little shiny because of the sweat. It's a headache. This annoying world repels people. I've tried my best to avoid people. I can't use large-scale attacks anymore. The big explosion just now killed a group of rebels and deserters who were pretending to be corpses and suffered a strong backlash. Sure enough, that divine skill comes at a great cost. Connie was relieved. It probably costs life or lifespan. Thinking of this, she was full of confidence and rushed forward again. I don't believe you still have the strength to fight. Who said that? The Lamani's divine power surged, and the space behind him was torn apart. Third level divine skill, original annihilation, change of tactics. Ah! Connie was so angry that she almost vomited blood. The violent destructive divine power merged with the seed of annihilation, forming a pitch-black energy spear. Chapter 564 Cavalry. Cavalry. Philomene used her magic to transform into a spear, and danced with great vigor, pressing Connie and beating her wildly, so she can fight in close combat. Looking at the invincible Philomene, Field breathed a sigh of relief. The explosion just now, although it did not hit Field, the rebels were all shocked. The battle between the mercenaries and the rebels has reached a fever pitch, with spears coming and spears going, and people on both sides falling down and fleeing. It's time, and we can't miss this opportunity. Seeing that Philomene had gained a great advantage, the rebels who were fighting against her were exhausted, and there were several phalanxes of rebels in the distance, chasing the Imperial soldiers towards them. Ashina, follow me to charge the enemy, and then go to meet the fleeing soldiers running towards us. Yes, my lord. Ashina excitedly poked out a gorgeous spear flower. Lead the cavalry in the night, divide into 3 teams, form a dense formation, and flank the enemy's left side. Field waved the Black Wolf flag in his hand, and the heavy cavalry, who had been conserving their strength, drove their horses to the first row, raising their lances horizontally, while the light cavalry were placed behind the formation, preparing sabers and bows and arrows. Kill! The flags crackled in the wind, and the horses' hooves stepped on the blood on the ground. 400 cavalrymen were divided into 3 groups, like 3 sharp swords, and fiercely slashed at the left formation of the rebels as the knights roared. Level 3 Divine Skill. Avalanche Charge. Ashina rushed to the front, unleashing her divine skill, and her momentum reached its peak. Field also took out the artifact, the command room of the Windtalker, and unleashed a halo to reduce the endurance consumed by everyone. The rebels had been fighting for a long time, and were already exhausted. They did not notice the arrival of the cavalry at all. A rebel officer in charge of the command heard the roar, turned his head and saw, and was almost scared to death. A bunch of evil cavalrymen wearing elite armor, black robes, and Makai came stepping on the blood on the ground, and with the faint shadow of the Black Wolf. They were like demons descending from hell. Fuck. You guys fight. I'm tired. The rebel commander turned around and ran without saying a word. He was shot off his horse by the light cavalry before he ran 50 meters. The rest of the rebels hadn't reacted yet, and the cavalry had arrived. Break the formation. Ashina pierced the left wing of the rebels without hindrance, and the lance in her hand burst out with a huge amount of destructive power. In an instant, the blood boiled and countless limbs and arms flew everywhere. Knight led the cavalry and followed closely, like the sharpest blade, killing everyone they saw along the way. Under the horses' hooves, countless rebels turned into dead souls. The rebels' left formation was submerged. The rebels' center collapsed. The rebels' right formation was pierced. Field's hands were sore from chopping, and he couldn't even remember how many people he had chopped. Anyway, the rebels around him were exhausted and collapsed, no different from chickens and ducks waiting to be slaughtered. The 2,000-man legion brought by Connie was completely defeated. Field no longer cared about them, but led the team to meet the Imperial army. As for the collapsed rebel army, it had been slaughtered by the mercenaries. Although the defeated rebel army was only the tip of the iceberg, it opened up a safe escape route. A large number of Imperial soldiers fled in the direction of Field. Thank you for your support, sir. A third-level god chosen, with more than 30 Dochi archers, staggered over. She had already dissociated the artifact and was covered in wounds. Glancing at the small map, it had returned to the uncontracted state. It was estimated that the Lord had died on the battlefield. Field wanted to laugh, but could only force a sad expression. Go to my army. Someone will pick you up. Remember, don't run around. There are enemies everywhere. Yes. Nodding gratefully, the Chosen One led his men to a safe area. There are still many people around who need help. Scanning the small map, there were 11 small green dots alone. Field hurriedly led the cavalry to rescue nearby. In the southwest corner of the battlefield, there were corpses everywhere, and a mage army of more than 100 people was trapped here. If it weren't for the protective shield created by the dissociation of the Chosen Ones, which resisted the attacks of the rebels, they would have been slaughtered by now. Looking around, the grinning rebels surrounded them. Some perverts, even without stopping, with a perverted look on their faces, drew hearts on the protective shield, or did handicrafts. And the hostile third-level Chosen Ones were constantly punching the protective shield, so there was no chance for them to survive. Lauren, it seems we are going to die here. My divine power is not enough to support the defense. With blood hanging from the corner of her mouth, Ellie looked weak, with dark circles under her eyes, as if she would close her eyes at any time. I'm sorry. I can't protect you. This is war. I will accompany you to the end. The swordsman called Lauren, smiled bitterly and propped himself up. I have joined the Imperial army for 20 years. We have killed many people. It is not surprising to be killed by others. My lord, we will fight to the last moment. The mages who had exhausted their magic power, both men and women, did not surrender. Instead, he took out his short sword for protection and picked up the spear on the ground. Well, we fight together. We can't let those perverts have an easy time. Lauren reluctantly stood up, looking at the shaky translucent rain cover, silently swallowed his saliva. Boom, boom, boom. The ground trembled, and the sound of horse hooves was heard. Huh, there are cavalry support. Lauren smiled bitterly. Being trampled to death by cavalry is better than being tortured by those lunatics. The shield disappeared, and the rebels laughed loudly. Aren't these the noble magician's wife and grandfather? You have come to this day. You used magic to attack us before, isn't it fun? Now it's our turn. A fat bear, rebel with a big beard, laughed. I want that handsome swordsman. I'm not interested in women. You're talking like no one is interested. You line up behind me. +1, I'll be the last. I like this. After these words, the survivors were so scared that they couldn't stand steadily. This is too perverted. Boom, boom, boom. The war horses roared. Wait, scatter. The enemy's third-level god chosen Chloe suddenly had a proud look on her face, and immediately dodged with a surge of divine power. It's the enemy cavalry approaching. The next moment, the Night Lord's lance and saber had already arrived. Third-level divine skill, Tyrant Dragon Flame. The dragon wolf spewed out hot dragon breath while running wildly, and all the rebels along the way turned into dark blue fireballs, and turned into ashes with screams. Ashina charged frantically, and crashed into the crowd, rushing left and right, and no one could match her. The Night Lord's cavalrymen harvested heads all the way in the back, and their knives were blunt. Ashina rushed to Chloe in an instant, seeing the faint ice flames burning around the opponent. The dragon wolf was full of momentum. Chloe was half afraid of fighting, but still said angrily, damn it. There are still people who dare to resist. Die! Before the voice fell, Ashina violently shot out, and heard a terrible roar like a dragon's roar. The long spear knocked the battle axe in Chloe's hand away, and violently slammed into his chest. In an instant, flesh and blood burst, and rib fragments flew everywhere. The ice spear penetrated and smashed into the surrounding rebels, plowing another 10 meters of blood, even without using magic skills. Ashina charged with a lance, and instantly killed the third-level goddess. Lauren and others who were preparing for a desperate fight were dumbfounded. Chapter 565, The Picked Up Army. Huh, we arrived just in time. Field killed the rebels around him, and asked loudly with blood all over his body, which army are you from? When Lauren heard Field's question, he woke up from his dream, and realized that he didn't have to die. He and the other magicians trembled with excitement, and couldn't control their bodies at all. Great! Ailey's power was exhausted, and she fainted. Your Excellency, we are magicians from the 9th Battalion of the 6th Legion, mastering elemental magic, and belonging to the offensive army. Lauren answered loudly. My wife, Ailey, is the 3rd level god chosen of this battalion. Alas, didn't your wife have a contract with you? Field was confused, because he clearly saw a green dot on the small map. It's contracted. Then, there is a chosen one here, go and look for her. Field dismounted, and his knights also helped to search, and they found a living woman among the corpses. It's the Dr. Miss Daisy, goddess. She survived the previous Dragon Knight attack. Swordsman Lauren came to help. She is a 4th level chosen one, and has strong healing ability. Then Ms. Livenrhoda, has anyone seen her? Field asked eagerly. He had a good impression of the helpful chosen one. Lauren had long been accustomed to death, and just sighed. She was a kind and good person. The 2 children lost their father last year, and now they have lost their mother. Ms. Livenrhoda was killed in the Dragon Knight attack, and died at the hands of Scarlet, a famous general of Franmaya. The enemy was a 5th level god chosen, and a terrifying Dragon Knight. Her sudden attack instantly wiped out the medical team, although everyone had little interaction. The Empire was so corrupt, and Livenrhoda was a rare good person. She helped everyone in the Night Territory twice, although it was just a few bottles of potion. Kindness is a luxury in this era. After a moment of silence, Field's sadness turned into endless hatred. He gritted his teeth and said to himself, dog-like invaders, I must beat you to death. As for Scarlet, she must be killed for revenge. My lord, the noble coalition may not be able to hold out for long. Seeing Field in a daze, Asina reminded him quickly. If the noble coalition can't hold out, the enemy's 5th and 4th levels will immediately surround them, and it will be difficult to leave at that time. I know how to save as many as I can. Field picked up the bloody Daisy. Where's my husband? Daisy barely opened her eyes, muttered incoherently, and struggled slightly. Most of the chosen ones of the Imperial Legion were not young, and almost all had families. Her husband should be. Lauren wanted to say it. Stop talking. Do you want to piss her off to death? Take her to a safe place. Without further delay, Field sent a team to escort them, and immediately went to the next green point, gathering up the defeated soldiers along the way. Then send the chosen to the rear. Gerlos will protect them. On the other side, Philomene and Connie have already decided the winner. Level 3 Divine Skill, Dawn Bird Soul Fire. Philomene stabbed out a simple spear, and more than 100 bird-shaped soul flames flew out around. Why do you still have divine power? Why? After fighting for half an hour, the opponent's spear skills were obviously terrible, but every attack was coordinated with divine skills. On the other hand, my own divine power had already been exhausted. Connie's eyes were bloodshot, and she spat out blood on the magic gun. Suddenly, the spear shone brightly. The gorgeous divine weapon seemed as hard to look at as the sun. She swung the magic spear, and with a whistling wind, her extremely exquisite spear skills instantly smashed all the morning birds, and smashed towards Philomene. Facing Connie's full-strength attack, Philomene did not show any solemnity. She knew that she could not escape, so she simply opened up her divine power defense. Buzz the magic spear smashed into Philomene's divine power shield, and instantly dispersed Philomene's vast divine power. But what made Connie desperate was that even so, the magic spear was still firmly blocked 1 meter away from Philomene. Impossible, impossible, this divine power is so strong. Connie's pupils trembled. After living for so long, she felt her worldview shattered for the first time. I was defeated by the 3rd level gods chosen. Heh, nothing is impossible. Go to hell. Original annihilation, change your tactics. Seizing the opponent's weakness, Philomene slapped the spear in her hand with a palm, and the black spear condensed with divine power, instantly turned into a beam of divine power, bringing a series of space ripples, severely smashing Connie's chest. Wow! Connie knew she was going to die, and screamed, Die with me. At the moment of death, Connie had a last burst of light, dissociated the artifact in her hand, injected all her vitality, and launched the final blow. Be careful. You can't handle it. At this time, a group of defeated soldiers from the Imperial Legion came running over, and among them, a chosen one holding a shield quickly jumped to the side of Philomene, and raised his shield to help resist the damage. No need. She dissociated too late. With a flick of his sleeve, the soul fire of the morning bird hit the opponent's head, and the soul attack instantly made Connie lose consciousness. Philomena stretched out her snow-white and slender hand, and directly penetrated the opponent's chest, and directly crushed the opponent's heart. The power of destruction frantically strangled all life, and Philomena did not bleed after she withdrew her hand. Without any last words, Connie fell to her knees, deader than dead. A dignified fourth rank. She was crushed by a third rank. Philomena gracefully withdrew her hand. Her cold and proud eyes remained unchanged, and she looked as dignified as if she was going to attend an international ball. Oh my! This strength! It must be the Queen's personal guard. Peggy, holding the shield, looked embarrassed, just rubbing the shield in her hand back and forth, wanting to ask which legion the other party was from. But she didn't dare to ask. After getting rid of a fourth-rank god chosen, the mercenaries barely drove away the surrounding rebels, and the small area occupied by Field became one of the few escape routes for the Imperial Army. The fleeing soldiers here are gathering more and more. Boom boom. The cavalry roared. Field had a girl on each side of his armpit, and ran back to the headquarters breathlessly. Philomela's eyes widened. Humans really like to stick together. 400 cavalrymen went out, and Field came back with more than 1,300 people, and among the extra 900 people, there were 500 cavalrymen. The soldiers gathered on Philomela's side also increased by more than 1,000 people, but there were fewer mercenaries. Let's continue the attack now. With my remaining divine power, it's no problem to kill another fourth level. Philomela's sleeves fluttered, and she waved her hand domineeringly. My Valkyrie, she can actually kill a fourth level. Field reined in his horse. We can't attack anymore. The noble army is in a losing position. The second wave of slaughter is coming soon. We have to retreat first. Everyone, load the wounded as much as possible, and retreat quickly to the northwest. Chapter 566 Magical Mercenaries. Northwest? There's not even a military camp there. We should go to the Immortal Castle immediately. The chosen one who had just been rescued immediately questioned. Ashina couldn't stand others questioning her lord. She glanced at him and said coldly, "You just need to obey the Lord's orders." "But the Immortal Castle will surely fall," Field explained quickly. "The enemy army is fully equipped, and the chosen ones are overwhelming in number. The noble army will surely lose. By then, we will surround the Immortal Castle, and the people hiding in the castle will be dead." And during the previous battle, a large number of traitors appeared in the Imperial army. The current Immortal Castle is probably the rebels' great northern camp, no longer giving everyone a chance to think wildly. Field sternly ordered, "If you don't want to be killed like a dog by the rebels, follow me." Fortunately, he had gritted his teeth and didn't sell the captured horses before. 600 or 700 war horses greatly increased the mobility. Everyone set off in a mighty manner. It was just as Field expected. The noble coalition was outnumbered, and with the Queen's betrayal, their morale was low. They were quickly defeated, and were slaughtered crazily by the rebels. The realm was crumbling. The sky was torn apart, and 3 enemy gods broke through the air. Among them, the hero King Audrey suffered the most. She was beaten like a bloody man, and her artifact was also disintegrated. But the Empire was even worse. The Sword Master had disintegrated his artifact. His clothes were mostly torn. His long hair was dancing in the wind. He looked like a madman. Sirius was also seriously injured. Why is there one less? That annoying venomous snake. Helio's eyes were solemn. Although she had the answer in her heart, she couldn't believe the reality. Died in battle. The swordsman uttered 2 words sadly. He turned around and turned into a stream of light and left. Alas, I didn't expect. Helios looked at the battlefield desperately. The rebels had killed all the fleeing soldiers. They were celebrating crazily, or finishing off the enemy, and some were playing the defeat animation, like hell on earth. Their own domain was crumbling, but the enemy lord was getting stronger with the support of the army. In the far distance, the bloody smell of the Immortal Castle was even stronger, and the screams were overwhelming, proving that the rebels had captured this most critical fortress. The south of the Empire would be flat, and the terrain advantage would be completely lost. Seeing that the enemy's 6th level god chosen wanted to join forces to block the space, Zilios could only helplessly turn into a stream of light and leave quickly. Haha. The Griffin Empire is really lame. And we killed all 100,000 troops. Leave it to the army next. I've reached my limit. Wait for the enemy's 6th level god chosen to appear, and then we will take action. The 6th level god chosen of Franmaya did not join in the pursuit of the defeated soldiers, but chose to go back to heal his wounds. The castle of the immortals has fallen. After the defeat of the Imperial Army, Commander Fernando, and a large number of defeated soldiers, opened the city gates. The rebels took the opportunity, and cooperated with the insiders in the city, and captured this important military town in one fell swoop. Next, there was an even more brutal massacre. Scarlet killed 1,000 people with her own hands, and then asked her mount to participate in the massacre of the Castle of the Immortals. She came to the meeting hall of the castle, and joined the military meeting of the coalition forces. General, you are mighty. I have heard that the dragoons of Franmaya are unparalleled in the world. Scarlet's magical skill instantly defeated several phalanxes. Goddess, it is really terrifying. Scarlet raised her mouth proudly. Your performance is also dazzling, and the glory shines on you. The commanders and the chosen ones of the coalition forces celebrated each other. Clearing his throat, the commander of the coalition forces read out the order in an orderly manner. An order has been received from the upper level. The Dragon Tower army will draw a main force to support the second battlefield, and the Franmaya army will draw a main force to support the third battlefield. The rest of the people will use the Unfallen Castle as a fulcrum to invade all surrounding cities. Doesn't the Grand Duke of Ashes need support? Someone asked. The Grand Duke surrendered. He ceded a province and 3 territories as compensation to us. The Grand Duke of Ashes, who did not wait for reinforcements, committed suicide. His son inherited the title and the chosen one and became a vassal of Franmaya. Then Dragon Tower will suffer a huge loss. We also want land. We'll talk about this after the war. The most important thing now is to burn the surrounding cities to ashes, and not give the Griffin Empire a chance to catch its breath. Many officers laughed happily. Great. We can make a fortune this time. Next, I will refine the order. The commander looked at Scarlet. There is an interesting but not very profitable mission. I think only Mithril Wing, the famous general of Franmaya, can take it. Go ahead. It had better be really interesting. Scarlet shrugged. Keep chasing the fleeing soldiers. Don't let them gather together. The enemy may have many high-level god-chosen hiding nearby. Find them, kill them all. Scarlet licked her lips, and suddenly laughed excitedly. Oh my god, my favorite, I will kill them all. When she fights, she likes to attack logistics, medical staff, and fleeing soldiers the most. The enemy's timid wailing will make her excited. Late at night, somewhere in a hidden spot in the squirrel forest, snoring like thunder, mixed with the sobbing and wailing of the wounded, the whole camp is filled with sadness. After Field took a short nap, he got up and went out to inspect the camp. Then he came to the camp. His chosen ones were busy. Jellos was sorting out the list of soldiers. Ashina was studying the military formation en route. And Philuamani turned into a small moon and was busy sleeping. No kidding. Philuamani's sleep, to restore her physical strength, is the biggest help to everyone. We still have to rely on her output. Sir, won't you take a nap? Ashina asked concernedly. Just leave this to us. I'm fine. You've worked hard, fighting during the day, and dealing with military affairs at night. Jellos dropped his quill, and put his hands on his hips. It's a small matter. I've almost finished the statistics. Tell me quickly. The current number of troops and chosen ones. Yes. Jellos handed over a piece of paper, and then introduced. Let's talk about the army of our headquarters first. The knight led the cavalry, including 384 wounded, because they were mainly responsible for cleaning up the mess, and their armor was excellent. So the casualties were very low. Mercenaries, including the wounded, about 420 people. There were more than 1,500 before, but only 1/3 of them were left after one battle. This is the worst loss in the war, after all. More than 5,000 gold coins were spent. How come it's just this low? Ashina's tail stood up. 300 casualties in the battle, the rest fled or fell behind, of course. Most of them fled. Gerlos spread his hands. Don't expect the mercenaries to fight at a high intensity. They wanted to run away a long time ago. It's okay as long as the direct army is not seriously damaged. Let's have some good news first. Field was not surprised, then rubbed his hands excitedly. How many gods chosen have we harvested? 9. 2 of them are 4th level, and the rest are 3rd level. This is rich now. Field was inflated, but he kept reminding himself not to be arrogant. I can't open champagne at halftime. I don't know how many of them are willing to give it to us. Chapter 567 Rating Table. Among them, there are 2 3rd-level god chosen, who still retain the Lord contract. And their lords did not die in battle. One is Peggy with the shield artifact. and the other is the mage god chosen Ellie, who is surrounded by the rebels. Neither is strong, and they are good people, so there is no need to play tricks. Field knows that these picked up god chosen have 3 fatal shortcomings and must be treated with caution. First, most of them are weak, and they are also 3rd level, and they probably can't withstand a shot from Ashina. And Philuomini can sweep a large area. If you contract a bunch of noobs, it will divide the experience of your own lineage, which will have a negative effect. Second, they are old, have families and power, and even have grandchildren, so they may not obey orders. Joining the Knight territory is equivalent to adding another faction. Third, some of the gods chosen are muscular women, grandmothers or tomboys. Littlefield said, I can't stand it. No matter what, I will definitely swallow them all, and use them for the Knight territory. Field rubbed his chin. Although they are not perfect, they are more than enough to guard some passes and villages. The key is the large number. For example, stationing them in the Morning territory, or the northern wall to resist the corpses, can save a lot of manpower. The soldiers we gathered, some escaped, some were gathered again. Now there are 2,250 people in total. Among them, there are about 410 Duki cavalry, about 260 Duki infantry, about 70 Duki archers, about 120 offensive magicians, about 30 auxiliary magicians. All of them are level 3, but their equipment is not complete. Many people lost their equipment when they escaped. Field took a breath. Nearly 900 extraordinary powers. If it is not extraordinary power, it is rare to have the ability to break through. Ashina was very worried. We must be cautious. Don't worry, I know. Field gave a thumbs up. Most of the extraordinary powers are the troops of the Chosen Ones. If you control the Chosen Ones, you can control those troops. When we return to Knight territory, we can split them up and absorb them. The next morning, Yifeng woke up slowly, but she smelled blood, and she jumped up suddenly. She felt pain all over her body, and she wanted to call the artifact but found that it had been disintegrated. Oops. Cold sweat slid down her forehead. She quickly reached out to the mosaic to test, and felt that her skirt was still there, and she was relieved immediately. It seemed that she was not captured by the rebels, and the defeat animation was released. You woke up? You are already a girl, cough cough. Field coughed twice, and waved his hand. Don't worry, there are no enemies around for the time being. I am Baron Field of the Griffin Empire, nickname, Lion of the North. Looking around alertly, I was in the military camp. The woman at the side walked out with a basin of blood. The logistics staff were very busy, helping the soldiers clean up the blood. After making sure that he was safe, Yifeng breathed a sigh of relief, and smiled with the relief of surviving a disaster. I have only heard of the Baron of Happy Beans. Damn it. Field almost kicked her out. Thank you for your help. Otherwise I would be dead. Yifeng thanked sincerely. You have to thank me. In order to save you, I sacrificed many excellent soldiers. Field was not polite. But for the future of the Empire, and the lives of the people, I have to save you. How is the battle situation in the Unfallen Castle? After hesitating for a moment, Yifeng gritted his teeth and asked. It's terrible. We met a civilian who was fleeing. He witnessed the fall of the Unfallen Castle. I don't believe it. Yifeng gritted his teeth, stumbled out of the tent, and ran into someone head-on. Sensual and enchanting, the collar of her dress was pulled very low. The slit of her skirt reached her waist. Except for the dirt on her body, she was plump and fair from head to toe. This dress was like my Shiranui's, as expected of a woman who had just given birth. She had the natural attraction of a young woman. Daisy still had bandages on her hands, and she was dirty all over. Miss Daisy? I'm so glad you're okay. Little Miss Night Breeze. Daisy narrowed her eyes like a mother. I'm glad to meet you, thanks to Baron Field. I woke up earlier than you, and already knew our situation. The Imperial army was defeated, and only a few escaped. It's all over. Night Breeze took 2 steps back, and fell on the camp bed, with his eyes rolling down. My father also died, and the land he protected all his life has been tainted by villains. I sympathize with your experience, but please cheer up. We haven't reached the safe zone yet, and we may encounter enemies here at any time. Field was worried that the enemies mopping up troops would launch a surprise attack on him. Yifeng curled up and cried, Go away. And leave me here. Seeing that the other party had given up on himself, Field immediately raised his voice and encouraged him seriously. Field, am still alive. What's the end? What we need to do now is to gather our strength again and take revenge for the dead. Field was murderous. We must take back everything we lost. If we can't take it back, we will take revenge 1,000 times. Instead of sitting on the ground, crying and giving up. It will only make the enemy proud. Hearing about revenge, a glimmer of desire flashed in Yifeng's eyes. Seeing that this had worked, Field could not help but take out a piece of paper. Here, take a questionnaire. What is this? Yifeng looked confused. Understanding your situation. It is convenient to reorganize the force. Yifeng subconsciously refused. I am a member of the Imperial Army. Your behavior is against the rules. Listen to the Baron. Now is not the time to talk about rules. Daisy shook her head. The legion we are loyal to has been wiped out. And Field saved us. Well, okay. Seeing that the 4th level god chosen said so, Yifeng had to nod woodenly. Let's talk about the artifact first. Field took out a small notebook to record. My artifact is a halberd, called the Blood Rage Halberd. Field ran all the way to the coastal area for 2 consecutive days, questioning whoever woke up, and sorted out a table, and used letter grades to evaluate their comprehensive abilities, not only considering combat effectiveness, but also character, appearance and identity. D level 4, Shield Girl Peggy, her magic skills are a mess. She has a contract, but her character is excellent. The other 3 are also a mess. Ashina can probably kill 2 with 1 shot, but she can bully small fish. 2 C level, Ellie, already contracted, loving couple gone Luo tomboy, seems to like the same sex. 1 B level, Varence, level 4, has a granddaughter, already 76 years old, has a halo-like divine skill. 2 A level, Daisy, level 4, a newly born wife, average divine skill, but has much needed healing skills. Yifeng, level 3, young, excellent divine skill, has good combat potential. After showing the table to his chosen one, Field was filled with emotion. Chapter 568, Border Defense. The cabbage I planted myself is still the most delicious. Among so many people, only Yifeng is young, the rest are either aunts or grandmothers. The vast majority of people can't even withstand a shot from Ashina. Hearing the compliment, Ashina was so proud that her tail kept spinning like a propeller. You're getting inflated. Gerlo stood proudly with his hands on his hips. Although I'm only at the 1st level, I have a promising future. Philomena said lightly, my opinion is to kill them. Ahem, don't be too outrageous. Field was ashamed. Don't underestimate ordinary combat power. Everyone has his value. As a lord, you should put them in the right place. To give a far-fetched example, are the 5 tiger generals awesome? But Boss Chow can chase Liu Bei around with a bunch of 2nd and 3rd-rate generals, plus a bunch of small soldiers. Similarly, when the territory expands in the future, I will also need many gods chosen to help with work, to be stationed or to be assistants to the deputy generals. Otherwise, it would be a waste of combat power to let Ashina, Rosaria and others be stationed at will. All those who can be contracted now are temporarily contracted, and will be reformed when we return to the Night Territory. Field made a decisive arrangement. The excellent ones will be permanently contracted, and those who are too weak or have serious character problems will be used as subordinates. At this time, Griffin Royal City. The Queen was sitting on the Griffin throne, listening to her subordinates reporting on this year's tax issues. Your Majesty, those unruly people are increasingly resistant to paying taxes. We should increase the punishment, which will definitely squeeze out more gold coins. Perhaps we should increase the source of income and recruit more people to dig for gold. Or, we can march north again. The northern province has the largest copper mine in the empire. As long as we take back the large copper mine, we will have an endless supply of copper coins. Absolutely impossible. The north cannot be recovered. No one can do it. Everyone was discussing fiercely. Suddenly, the door of the hall opened, and a minister came in, rolling and crawling. He looked around in panic, as if he had lost his soul. Your Majesty, there is news from the Undying Castle. Oh! The Griffin Queen, who was bored, sat up straight immediately. She was ready to hear the good news that the Noble Coalition army was completely annihilated. She was so excited that she couldn't sleep all night when she thought that she could take back the land immediately and inherit the family business that the nobles had painstakingly accumulated for thousands of years. Speak now. Don't hesitate. The Queen raised her beautiful chin and urged the minister to continue. Our army was completely annihilated. Undying Castle was captured. The noble army led the army to support, but it was defeated because it was unable to support itself. the 6th rank god chosen, Quetzalcoatl, died in battle. Grand Duke Ashes died in battle, the Grand Duke's son, with the 6th rank god chosen of the Ashes family, surrendered to Franvia. Immediately afterwards, the 2nd and 3rd main armies were surrounded and defeated by the enemy reinforcements and suffered heavy losses, with more than 50,000 casualties. The whole hall was in uproar, losing 2 6th rank god chosens, more than 100,000 troops. Such a tragic defeat, unprecedented. Looking back at the founding of the Griffin Empire, there are very few such tragic defeats against humans. It is even more terrible than the previous queen, who destroyed the Expeditionary Army. After all, the Expeditionary Army did not have any 6th rank casualties. The Griffin Queen was stunned, and even laughed out loud. What did you say? Are you kidding? Your uncle, Lord Fernando, and a large number of imperial officials and chosen ones were captured by the enemy. The rebels asked for a high ransom, allowing us to redeem them. Their messengers will arrive soon. Absolutely impossible. Absolutely impossible. With a wave of her hand, the queen swept the red wine and fruit beside her to the ground, and said coldly, "You are not a spy of the rebels." What happened? Tell me. Yes. After the minister finished telling everything that happened in detail, even Fields returned to rescue. It was all included. The ministers did not know the queen's plan. They just thought that Fernando underestimated the enemy and advanced rashly. They complained and wailed. It's over now. We have lost so many troops. How can we control the land of the empire? Let's make peace quickly. Don't the rebels want money and land? Give them, and it will be over. The land of the empire spans the endless sea and the storm sea. It doesn't matter. We should regroup the troops and spread false news to stabilize the situation in the empire. Everyone talked about it and couldn't make up their minds. How could we lose? How could we lose? Did she betray me? That's impossible. After being stunned for a long time, the queen's heart was already filled with a huge wave. When there were signs of rebellion in the 3 western provinces, she deliberately did not extinguish them, and even deliberately fanned the flames, because she planned to use the rebels to eliminate the nobles and dissidents, and to hit the Fremians. In addition, the food that was lost due to famine in the province was also managed by her relatives, and secretly exchanged for gold coins. After a while, she woke up from her dream, and slammed the table angrily. No, we must continue to fight, and we must severely punish those lowly people. But, Your Majesty, we don't have many troops to mobilize. Although the number of the imperial army is huge, the large territory means more areas to defend, and the local army is needed to deter the nobles. Are you willing to be defeated by hungry peasants and slaves? The queen was unhappy. Don't forget how the rebels treated officials and nobles. Kill them all. No exceptions. Yes, we can lose to the Fremians, but we can't lose to those slaves. Everyone nodded, otherwise it is very likely to cause imitation. Seeing that the ministers were a little calmer, the queen immediately ordered, "Go to the defense lines of the elves and the subhumans. Each of them will be selected as 6th level god, and bring back a legion of 10,000 people. In addition, urge all places to recruit new soldiers. We must fight back. Your Majesty, if foreign races invade, it will be another disaster. The High Elves are extremely addicted to magic. Our country is rich in magic core veins, and it is their favorite land. But the subhumans are brave but poor, and have coveted the fertile farmland of the empire for a long time. The elves in this world are not the elves in the animation, who are stupid, useless and cute, and are often defeated by orcs, but are like war maniacs. The High Elves claim to be the highest creatures, the biological children of the goddess, and the demigod bloodline. Looking at humans is no different from looking at a bunch of replies. They would rather have fun with the sacred beasts in the forest than look at humans. Moreover, elves are naturally close to magic. Their desire for magic has reached the point where they can shout fuck ice. The queen pondered for a long time, then, draw 2 6th level from the subhuman defense line, and the elf defense line will not move. Subhumans are just robbers. At most, they will steal some food and daily necessities. They will not hurt the foundation of the country. Let's make the people over there suffer. Yes, Your Majesty. Everyone took the order, and immediately went to mobilize troops. The queen leaned on the cold throne, and fell into deep thought. I didn't expect that the noble coalition would come back to help. Am I really wrong? Chapter 569 Inevitable Conflicts. On the way to the Western Sea, they have arrived at the blue sky territory of Songhai province. Corpses and ruins can be seen everywhere along the way. The prosperous western seaside is now deserted. My lord, Ashina and Jellos came to report at the same time. Our light cavalry frequently spotted enemy scouts. And there are rebels following us. Ashina looked serious. They didn't attack. But the number of scouts kept increasing. And they were most likely waiting for support. This is inevitable. They will not give up killing every Griffin Empire person. Field secretly thought it was not good. This is not a small group of rangers, but a legion under the command of a commander. Before we return to night territory, there may be a fierce battle to fight. Field, our food reserves have run out. Jellos, who was in charge of logistics, ran over, turned his head to make sure there were no outsiders around, and then reported in a low voice, "We can only barely hold on for 2 days. After all, there are many more people and war horses." Ashina frowned. "What can we do? It's so far from the seaside. There is still at least half a month's journey." Seeing that the two were under too much pressure, Field looked up at the sky and exhaled. "Don't worry, I have a plan. I am a man recognized by the Tree of Wisdom title, Red Fruit." Why do I remember it was the Book of Wisdom? Gerlos scratched his head in confusion. But, as expected of an adult, you actually thought of a way. Of course, the way is to rob. Field took out a paper map. When planning the route before, I deliberately chose a route that passes through the enemy city. We get supplies through looting. The Blue Sky territory has been occupied by the rebels for a long time. This place was originally one of the granaries of the Songhai province. Now the rebels have to rely on this area as a springboard to attack the surrounding cities. Blue Sky City must have stored a lot of food, enough for our army to use. That's a good idea. Ashina was overjoyed. I love robbing. Gerlos was embarrassed. You two are really enough, but as a granary for supplying border troops, the defense must be very tight. Not necessarily. First, the rebels have won victory after victory, and they must be careless. Second, the rebels are fighting against the Empire, and they must attack with all their forces, and the troops left behind may not be many. Ashina, you go back and prepare, and when we arrive at the suburbs of Blue Sky territory, we will launch the attack. Yes, my lord. As she turned around and was about to leave, she ran into the chosen gods of the Imperial Army, and was pushed away aggressively. Baron, goddess, I can't believe what I saw. A bunch of snakes and scorpions in the cradle of a baby. The army's grandmother Valancer was very serious. We must drive them away. Field was not bluffed. Speak human words. Where do babies come from in my army? I don't even have child laborers. It's subhumans. We actually have a subhuman army and subhuman gods chosen. Yi Feng pointed at Ashina, then crossed his arms in front of his chest, with a look of shock. It's terrible. Ashina scratched her head. Embarrassedly said, what did our subhumans do to you? Yes. She saved your life. Field held his forehead, knowing that the inevitable conflict was coming. The guy who was not trained by himself is incompatible with Knight Leader in terms of ideology. I don't care. It's either me or her, or either me or her. Everyone protested. They relied on their numbers to form cliques. Okay, you all add up to exchange for Ashina. I won't exchange. These old antiques are stubborn and rigid. They can't stand anything that goes against their intuition. If they knew they still had disasters, they would explode on the spot, and even be willing to die with me. Field shouted angrily. You tried to harm the nobles before, and that's why you lost like this? Are you going to do it again? Faced with the soul-searching question, everyone felt ashamed. Field stood decisively in front of Ashina, and said in an unquestionable tone, it's time now. My scouts have found the enemy's pursuers. If anyone touches her today, I will kick her out myself. Sorry, Baron. The Imperial Army bowed their heads. Instead of fighting in the same place all day long, why not let me fight in my own bed? Seeing that everyone admitted their mistakes, Field's tone softened a little. Valancer was shocked. Is it true? That's great. I'm almost 80 years old. Kid, don't joke with me. Grandma Valancer. Except you. Field was sweating profusely. Alas! The chosen ones of the Imperial Army exclaimed. Baron Field. Although you are quite charming, we all have our own families. We can't do this. Although they said so. The chosen one still squeezed out a rare smile. Night Breeze lifted the ends of his hair and smiled. Brother Field, how old are you? 18. Field added. If you mean age? 9 years younger than me. Night Breeze blinked his eyes. How about you be my brother? Be my brother? You are quite manly when you are fierce. Another chosen one came up, chattering. Don't mess around. It was Grandma Varence who stopped the farce. I am a noble, not a bunch of you commoners. Fools who hang out among the dead all day long. Why do I want you to be my sister? To divide the family property? Sorry. Field was speechless, waving his hand. Whatever you want. But the subhumans are really dangerous. Night Breeze poked two fingers and advised seriously. The subhumans are our enemies. Don't say that. I am in command now. Not the Queen. Field, stop talking nonsense. This is your first time joining the army of the Night Lord. I know you don't know the rules, so I won't bother with you. Now, I will tell you the rules of the Night Army. Discipline, discipline, and discipline. You obey orders, I will lead you to fight, victory, or we will all die together. It's that simple. If you don't agree with my rules, you can leave at any time. But I remind you that you are carrying the lives of too many comrades. The crowd became more depressed. They haven't recovered their fighting strength yet. Leaving means death. What's more, they don't know what to do next. Asina was moved to tears. Okay, you go, and do your own things. Field's tone relaxed, said sincerely. Uniting all the forces that can be united is the way to victory. Besides, the demi-humans are so cute, you must not make future generations without cat-eared girls. Wait, Mr. Field, if you want us to fight for you, at least let us join the military meeting. Grandma Varence asked. Even if you let one person go. Rubbing his chin, Field thought for a while. Only Miss Yeffing can attend the meeting, and the rest of the people will execute. Yeffing looked flattered. Chapter 570, Pursuers. Dusk falls, but the Songhai province is not at peace. The Fremenans are attacking the Imperial army and killing them all. Die! People roar and horses neigh. Graham, the 5th level divine choice of the Empire, looks in horror at the flying dragon knight who blocks the sunset. Scarlet thrusts out with the dragon heart lance in her hand. 5th level divine skill, bury the sky. A stab, the sunset changes color, rolling black divine power, like the water of the Milky Way. No matter how the Imperial army below wails, or cries in despair, the brilliant shot still falls. In an instant, everyone was shrouded in darkness. The mountain was shattered by the divine skill, and the broken rocks were like flying raindrops, which made everything around it full of holes. This elite Imperial army of 1,000 people was not Scarlet's opponent, and most of them were slaughtered in an instant. Haha, run away quickly, hunting is fun this way. Scarlet controlled the armored dragon to fall, and the long spear in her hand stabbed wildly, and the dragon swallowed it one by one, with great pleasure. Graham was even more horrified. She couldn't believe that. They were both at the 5th level, but the opponent's momentum was so strong that she felt suffocated. You retreat quickly. I will cover you. Looking at her own family being slaughtered by the enemy, Graham gritted her teeth, and even her gums bled slightly. Although she knew she was no match, she still decided to use her divine power to fight the enemy desperately. Fight for the Empire. 5th level divine skill. Tearing poison claws. Graham shuttled through the battlefield like a ghost, and came silently behind Scarlet. Suddenly, he transformed into a green divine claw and grabbed the enemy fiercely. With this claw, she was confident that she could split mountains and rocks. Not to mention that the other party was unaware. Even if he was powerful, if he was attacked from behind, he would surely... You can't hold it back anymore? Poor little mouse. Scarlet suddenly turned her head and laughed like a devil. The next moment, a sound of breaking wind, like a dragon's roar, sounded. 5th level magic skill. Roaring spear. When the tip of the spear was still 1 meter away from Graham, Graham's neck was cut by the spear, and blood flowed. You have to know that the divine defense of the 5th level God's Chosen is much stronger than the city wall. So fast. Graham's pupils trembled, and she suddenly felt like she was frozen, allowing the other party's spear to pierce her. The gorgeous spear light pierced through her neck, and Graham's entire neck was crushed. The waste of the Griffin Empire. Another one was killed. Saving a lot of food in this world. Scarlet retracted her spear lightly, and a happy smile rose at the corner of her mouth. Next, I hope you can bring me some fun. On the other side, after quickly resolving the internal conflicts, the chosen ones of the Imperial army expressed their willingness to contribute, and Field finally completely mastered this army. That night, Ashina, who had just gone out for reconnaissance, came back quickly to report. My lord, my wolf cavalry has already detected the enemy's movements. Ashina rushed into the camp. Her tone was urgent, and her scarlet eyes were full of fighting spirit. Seeing her expression, Field's heart immediately rose. It was definitely not a good thing. The enemy is not the peasant rebels, but the regular army of Franmaya. Ashana picked up the small flags on the table and placed them on the map. A cavalry regiment of 1,500 people is following us. The cavalry can run at full speed and attack us in about half a day. In addition, the enemy may have flying troops and a large number of infantry on their way. They are building cages to tie up flying monsters. A cavalry regiment of 1,500 people? Yifeng stood up with his pupil shaking. Miss Werewolf, tell me what flags they are flying. Blue Dragon Staff Flag, Night Charge Flag, and Shield and Axe Flag. A total of 3 large flags. Ashina drew the flags in a few strokes and showed them to everyone. It's over. Are you sure you didn't see it wrong? Yifeng jumped up in fear, trembling uncontrollably. It's all over. Scarlet is here. A famous general of Franmaya. One of the vice-captains of the Blue Dragon Knights. And a genius chosen by God, who is almost certain to become a 6th-level genius. Scarlet. The one who killed Levan Rhoda. Damn it. It really lives up to the saying, enemies always meet again. Field cursed, but still calmed down and handed Yifeng a glass of water. Don't panic. Tell me all her information in detail. Well, Yifeng smiled bitterly. She is a 5th level chosen by God, and her strength is stronger than ordinary 5th level ones. It's enough for everyone to know this. We can't possibly fight against the 5th rank chosen. I didn't see her. I only saw the cavalry. Ashina shook her head. She should be killing others. Once Scarlet arrives in person, she will ride a dragon from the clouds and suddenly attack the enemy. You can hardly see her at ordinary times. But when you see her, the slaughter begins. In addition, the army of Franmaya has 2,000 regular soldiers in 1 flag, and is led by a 4th rank chosen. 3 flags, 3 4th rank, 6,000 regular soldiers. We are so few in number. They shouldn't be chasing us. Right? Jahiros was dumbfounded. No. Scarlet is very cruel. She won't let anyone go. Even if it's a small team of dozens of people. The weaker they are, the more she likes to torture them. She once tried to use her dragon mount to abuse an ordinary person. Perverted. Right? Field paced back and forth. It would be a lie to say that he was not worried. 6,000 elites. 3 4th level gods chosen. And a powerful 5th level gods chosen. He finally picked up the army and the gods chosen. But at the last stage of the harvest, he ran into pursuers. It was really annoying. Barren field. At this point, Yifeng gritted his teeth. We should abandon the army. Let the army find a place with dangerous terrain. Form a defensive formation. And buy time for us to escape. As expected of the chosen one of the Imperial Army, he made a cruel decision without hesitation. And could even be called cold-blooded. It's a very decisive idea. If you don't make a decision, you will suffer the consequences. Field nodded in praise, then shook his head heavily. But, as long as there is a slight chance, even a little bit, I will not give up anyone. How much time can an army without the chosen one command? At most 1 day. It's useless. It is not my style to let loyal soldiers, who have risked their lives, be slaughtered like pigs and dogs. Besides, I may not be powerless to fight. Don't hesitate. Yifeng continued to dissuade him. We are definitely not her opponents. No. We still have time. During this time, we can do a lot of things. Field stared at the map. Isn't she here yet? When she comes, I will slap her face hard and pull off her hood. Please don't take chances. Yifeng shook his head. I support you. Sir. Asina and Jellos raised their hands immediately. Philyuam and I rarely showed an appreciative smile. My opinion is, kill. Chapter 571 Foraging War. The customs of Dragon Tower and the strange painter. Large-scale military operations cannot be concealed from professional troops, especially in Songhai province. There is not even a stray dog, and living people can be seen from a long distance. Just as Field had discovered Scarlet's pursuers long ago, the garrison scouts of Blue Sky City also discovered Field in advance. Fortunately, Field kept urging the march, and at this time, it was only an hour's march away from the city by infantry. The city was quiet and peaceful, and even the sound of bagpipes exclusive to Dragon Tower could be heard, and the residents sang and danced. Ha. Finally we have reached the main continent. Our Dragon Tower Empire can rely on the land here to become a continental country in the future. Great. But it's a pity that the damn Framians have occupied the other half of the city. Oh! What unfortunate news. Sooner or later, they will be sent to the dungeon to eat cockroaches with those lowly griffins. Are there still people from the Griffin Empire who have not been killed and are being used as firewood? On the street, the bloodstains in the bricks had long dried up. The residents spoke foreign languages and were very happy. As logistics personnel accompanying the army on the expedition, they usually lived in unowned houses and looked like locals. Make way. Gentlemen, please make way. A light cavalryman with a mustache and wearing red leather armor walked through the crowd. Hey, Mr. Quick Joe. Look at this. The cavalry looked in the direction of the sound and saw several enthusiastic girls wearing headscarves, but without any threads on their upper bodies. They painted strange but very beautiful oil paint on their bodies and used their chests as drums, causing the onlookers to whistle continuously. Oh my God, goddess, this is so beautiful. I want you to bake long bread. Then come to the mill quickly. We have already gathered 10 hard-working young men. The cavalry waved their hands. No, we found a large group of enemy troops not far from the city. They might attack us. I have to report immediately. Ha ha ha. The people on the street laughed, making happy sounds. You are so humorous. Those cowards were beaten to pieces by our army. I got the news from the wounded. On 3 fronts, the Imperial army was defeated. Our army is attacking frantically. Where are the enemies? The goddess of victory favors us. Hail, praise the great white queen. Joe, I think you are too depressed. Have a glass of apple juice with girls' appetit. The people on the street cheered again, not taking Field's army seriously at all. In fact, fast legs, Joe didn't take it seriously either. He only saw a beggar army with low morale and incomplete equipment. It was estimated that they were defeated deserters, and they were running around like headless flies. Sorry. I'll come back after I finish my mission. Joe took off his hat to the ladies, then hurried to the city lord's palace, and was told that the city lord was on the 2nd floor. Helplessly, Joe could only climb the spiral staircase. To his surprise, a woman was sitting at the door of the bedroom. She was peeping into the bedroom through the crack of the door in a charming manner, and was drawing something on a piece of white paper. Spy! Joe drew the cavalry sword at his waist. Hush! The woman turned around immediately, and made a gesture to keep quiet, and Joe put down the sword for some reason. The other person was so beautiful. She was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. As a scout, she had seen countless beautiful women, but this was the first time she had seen such a beautiful woman. Accompanied by the fragrance of gardenia, the woman stood in a charming posture, looking at him with a smile. Keep your voice down. The brown hair was slightly curly, the low collar showed off her roundness, the blue ribbon around her waist dragged all the way to her bony ankles. Luckily, her long legs were tall, otherwise it would be very inconvenient to drag it on the ground. Even if you let me dig out your heart, I would not hesitate. Xiao wanted to say this, but the inexplicable shyness made her ashamed to speak. I'm painting, for the lord of the city, you know, it's art. The woman's voice was very pleasant and gentle. She spread out the drawing board and showed Xiao the painting. Everything that happened in it is so interesting, very impactful, and intoxicating. Hearing the other party's fluent and authentic Longta language, Xiao was completely relieved that the other party was the god of Longta. In the painting, a strong man was madly ravaging a thin woman. The second painting was a tragic painting of the army entering the city and massacring civilians. It was painted in oil. The crazy scene, so vivid, so real that it's frightening. Joe swallowed unconsciously, and his mind instantly became much clearer. Although he participated in the massacre, he was afraid at night. I really don't know how the woman in front of him dared to draw it. Mind your own business, don't mention my existence. Seeing that the other party was afraid, the woman was very disappointed, and took 2 steps back. I think you don't understand what art is. Yes, I still have to report the mission. Joe knocked on the door. Sir, there's an enemy army, is heading towards our city. What? An angry voice came from inside. Toothless, stupid dog, the Imperial army was defeated. Where did the army come from? Not only me, other scouts saw it. Joe shrank his neck. The other side is more than 100 people, sorry. Sir, I can only count to 100. Damn Griffin Empire people, so annoying. There was a sound of heavy objects being thrown in the house, and then a strong man walked out. It was the city lord Neil. Tell my gods chosen, Gemma, to gather some soldiers in the city, and call the merchants, and dispatch some guards to help defend the city. Sir, should we go for help? Get out of here, they are just some defeated soldiers. Asking for help will cost trust. I don't want my superiors to think that I am a coward that even defeated soldiers are afraid of. Yes, yes. Field came to the outskirts of Blue Sky City, and the city stood in front of him. This wealthy little town is now extremely desolate, and the reinforced wooden gate is still quite strong. There are some crossbowmen on the city wall, but not many. Instead, the crowd who came to watch the excitement secretly squeezed onto the city wall and pointed at the army led by Yimu. But they were not scolded by the soldiers. Sure enough, the defense here is empty, and we will definitely be able to take it down and get food. Field also saw through the small map that there was no ambush here. They are not afraid of us. Ashina shook her tail in confusion. Ha, the human heart is blind. Field motioned to Ashina to join him, driving the horse to climb a high ground. Look at our soldiers. More than 2,000 defeated soldiers, low morale, more than 500 mercenaries, who were just idling around, plus days of marching. Everyone was dejected, distressed, just like a bunch of pitiful beggars, coming to beg for food. Their own cavalry was domineering, but they were responsible for supervising the army, preventing any soldiers from sneaking away, so they were not seen by anyone. Ha ha ha. Is this the army of the Griffin Empire? I swear, I can beat 10 of them. On the distant city wall, the crowd and soldiers who were watching the excitement burst into merciless laughter. Chapter 572. It's really bad. Ashina was ashamed. Field, is this your plan, to attack a well-defended city? Yifeng hurried over, and was so angry that he jumped up and down. We haven't recovered from the dissociation state yet, so we can't use surprise attack tactics. If we force the attack, the enemy will pour boiling oil and stones on the city wall, and we will definitely pay a heavy price. In addition, the most important thing is that there is a group of cavalry behind us who are eyeing us covetously, and it is very likely that there will be a 4th-level god chosen leading the team. Yifeng was so angry that his face turned red. When besieging a city, being attacked from behind by cavalry, you know the consequences. Right? Don't panic. Field shook his head repeatedly, pointing around. If we don't attack the city, our soldiers will only starve to death. The 3 western provinces have been suffering from famine for a year. Even the bark of the trees has been stripped. We have no choice but to take the city to get food. That's too risky. It's better than abandoning the soldiers. Field was not only not discouraged, but also more eager to fight. It's already at a low point. It will rise anyway. I have a plan. Your injuries have not recovered yet, so I will let you see the fighting style of the Night Territory. Ashina, just test it. Remember to show the enemy weakness. Remember to report my name. I am the North Border Divine Bird of the Empire, Sukai-ji. I advised them to surrender quickly. Yes. Without any hesitation, Ashina drove the domineering dragon wolf and flew majestically across the army. This ridiculous mission, you actually carried it out? Yifeng was a little confused. Also, your last name is Kuan. I remember your last name is Ross. Don't worry about these details. Ashina came to the outside of the city quickly, keeping a certain distance. The soldiers on the city wall hesitated whether to throw arrows. This is the North Territory God Bird, Sir Sukai's army. Please surrender immediately. Otherwise we will launch an attack and leave no one alive. Asina patted the dragon wolf's head, and the dragon wolf immediately raised its front paws and posed in Napoleon's classic style, which was so cool that it had no friends. Ha ha ha. I bet. Those beggars can't even touch the city wall. There was another burst of laughter on the city wall. They were not people of the Griffin Empire. And of course, they couldn't stand seeing Field become powerful. Get out. There was a roar from the city wall, and Dragon Tower God chosen Gemma waved the dagger in her hand. Listen, you useless people. We have killed all the Griffin Empire people in the city. This land has nothing to do with you, but belongs to us. What? The chosen ones of the Imperial Army were in an uproar. Yifeng's blood was boiling, and he vomited a mouthful of black blood. The people of the Empire are actually... Aren't you here to help the rebels? Ashina didn't expect this to happen, and asked immediately. Ha, who would help without any benefit? Gemma was so proud, she showed her divine power to intimidate. Just use the Hero King, the land near the sea is the most valuable, and they will become our trading city. Damn, these beasts. Field was very angry. No wonder I didn't see any locals along the way. It turned out that they were all slaughtered. Looking at the wall again, those Dragon Tower people wearing strange clothes and speaking foreign languages, everyone was filled with righteous indignation. Ashina casually threw an arrow, deliberately missed the target, charged back and forth twice, and was driven back to the main formation by the enemy. Sir, the enemy's chosen ones guarding the city are only level 3, and their artifacts are short swords. I have tried many times, and there are no other hostile chosen ones inside. Very good, they dared to set foot in the Empire. I want their blood to feed every inch of land. Field's eyes were burning with fighting spirit. Although they were not the people of his territory, Field was still indignant. How are you going to fight? Yi Feng wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Even if you ask me to die, I am happy to do so. In addition, don't forget that there are enemies behind us. Simple situation. Yi Mu's army is besieging the city, and more than 1,000 elite pursuers may attack them from behind at any time. You should restrain the infantry. Pretend to set up camp on the spot, and be prepared to resist the cavalry. It would be best if you can deceive the enemy to relax. If not, defend on the spot and wait for me to come back for help. Restrict the infantry? What about the cavalry? Field snorted coldly, and a dangerous smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Of course. Follow me and launch a blitzkrieg. Soon, Yi Mu's army was boiling, and the infantry mixed with logistics spread out in a mess, surrounding the messy carts, as if they were building a camp. This scene also fell into the eyes of the pursuers. As a subordinate of the 5th level God-chosen Scarlet, Letty is a noble 4th level God-chosen, leading the 6th flag of the Blue Dragon-affiliated Guards Cavalry. Where are Lady Scarlet and the other troops? Letty stood on a dirt slope, looking at the knight-leading troops in the distance. There are quite a few people, at least more than 2,000 people. The adjutant Shichuan replied vaguely, other troops are hunting the fleeing soldiers, and they can't get here in time. Another adjutant Dahlia suggested, Sir, the enemy is preparing to attack the city. We should prepare the cavalry and launch a fatal attack from behind. Ha ha ha, then I will definitely be scolded to death by Lady Scarlet. Letty elegantly threw the gloves to the adjutant. The enemy is not fully armed, but is determined to attack the city. They are desperate. Attacking the enemy now will cause unnecessary casualties, especially since they are defending against cavalry. Letty instructed her subordinates. The Imperial army has just been defeated, and the chosen ones have separated from the artifacts. Killing them will gain nothing. There will be heavy casualties and no benefit. So there is no need to attack. Why not track them down? Wait for Lady Scarlet to come. Cooperate with her to easily defeat the enemy, and get benefits. So that's how it is. The two adjutants were in a trance. But what if the enemy captures the city? So we'll wait, and see the progress of the other side's siege. The sound of horse hooves was heard in the distance. They actually sent out cavalry? Are they going to use cavalry to attack the city? Riley burst out laughing. It seems that the worry is unnecessary. Really? What does the enemy commander do? The pursuers laughed mercilessly. Ha ha ha. Look! The idiots of the Griffin Empire are actually going to use cavalry to attack the city. Similarly, in Blue Sky City, everyone on the wall also burst into laughter. Even in their own army, many people shook their heads, thinking that cavalry charging the city wall was simply nonsense. The Knight Army, after leaving the infantry to form a formation, actually assembled a cavalry of 800 people, consisting of more than 400 defeated soldiers, and the elite of the Knight Army. Field didn't care what others thought, but asked Phil Uomanai and Ashina to prepare for the explosion. Remember, our strategic goal is to take them by surprise, break through the defense line as quickly as possible, and defeat the local defense. After saying that, Field waved the flag in his hand, vertical formation. Prepare sabers, and charge with me. Chapter 573. Charge. The Imperial Army's Dookie Knights used them as cover, put up Dookie shields, and charged towards the city gates and walls. For a moment, the knights rose and fell with their horses, and the small flags hanging from their lances fluttered in the strong wind. Are you really going to use the cavalry to charge the city walls? The city lord Neil grinned, slapping his thigh with laughter. It's really stupid. No wonder the enemy's pigheads were beaten up by us. Ha ha ha, this land doesn't need such ignorant trash. It should be ruled by us. The chosen one Gemma laughed triumphantly. The cavalry is really scary when they charge. Some onlookers were frightened by the scene of thousands of horses galloping. What are you afraid of? The city walls here are strong, and our inscription wizards have engraved defensive inscriptions on them, making them indestructible. If the cavalry can crash in, I will just eat 3 pounds of meat. They are all played by Lord Neil. The daughter of the former mayor of Blue Sky City was defeated and turned into an idiot. He, I am really looking forward to the fate of these people. Everyone watched the excitement excitedly, not afraid of the cavalry's charge at all. When the cavalry was about to enter the range of the enemy's crossbows, "It's time," Philomene bombed the city wall. Because he was worried that Philomene would kill too many living things and fall into a backlash state, Field simply asked her to attack the city wall. Philomene waved her hand casually and immediately blasted out more than a dozen golden cross stars, like a gorgeous comet with a whistling wind, and blasted on the city wall. In an instant, the onlookers only felt a flash of golden light in front of their eyes, and the next moment, there was a boom like an earthquake. The defensive runes engraved on the city wall were instantly wiped out. The city wall exploded, and a landslide occurred in the bombed area. The flying rubble spun and splashed out. An unlucky soldier had his head smashed by the rubble, and blood splattered everywhere. The crowd on the city wall was in chaos. The excitement of the onlookers disappeared quickly, and was replaced by horror and fear. What is this? A rare siege guide choice? And a long-range magic skill? Jima was shocked, and her smile froze on her face. Sir, the wall has cracks, and the defensive runes have been erased. A soldier hurried to report. The city lord Neil was shocked. What a joke. Even if it is a 4th level, it will take a long time to chisel. Is it possible that the inscription mage cut corners? Siege god chosen is one of the rarest professions, usually appearing in industrially developed cities. Before everyone could react. 3rd level magic skill. Avalanche charge. The guard ice spear behind Ashina was integrated into the lance, instantly transforming the artifact into a 5-meter-long, ferocious siege cone that 3 people could hold together. With a powerful boost of the magic skill, the shadow of a giant wolf appeared behind Ashina. The next moment, she jumped out of the battle formation, like a long rainbow, and crashed directly into the city wall that was almost collapsed before. Another siege? Am I still asleep? Gemma jumped up in shock, no longer able to maintain her previous composure. The soldiers on the city wall were in chaos. The city wall, which was already in danger, was directly pierced by Ashina, leaving a 5-meter-wide gap. The stones piled here, because of the terrifying shock wave, turned into scattered stones like shotguns, and those who were hit would break bones and tendons, and those who were hit would die without a complete body. Ah! Help! The Dragon Tower people who were watching around, as well as the soldiers lined up behind the wall, were hit by the flying stones, and a bloody storm immediately broke out. The wall has been broken. Chop it hard. I'm addicted to chopping. Field waved the long sword in his hand. Attack. Kill. Kill all the damn invaders. The cavalry saw the trembling enemy in the distance, and remembered their inhumane evil deeds. Their eyes suddenly turned red, and they raised their sabers high, passing through the gap in the damaged wall. The cavalry rushed in like a torrent. The impact brought by the high speed turned them into mud trucks, and they crashed into the crowd with a puff of blood mist. After the horses had finished their collision, they swung their swords and chopped down anyone they saw. As the horses' hooves stepped forward, the swords flashed, and groups of people fell down with blood spurting out. No matter if you were a civilian, a soldier or an officer, you would be chopped down once you appeared in their sight. Help! The Griffin Empire has invaded. Run away. They are just a bunch of lunatics, and they will kill anyone they see. The people of Longta who were watching realized that their enemies were not beggars or trash at all, but extremely cruel lunatics. The enemies had no sense of chivalry, and even innocent people would be killed. For a moment, the city walls were in chaos. The panicked civilians even confused their own army and ran away with the soldiers guarding the city. Damn it. The lowly people should not attack my army. Soldiers, line up. Don't run. The city lord Neil was sweating profusely. He would never have thought that Field could break through the wall in an instant. Quick, Gemma. Let's break through the siege and go out for help. Yes. Just as Gemma was about to break through, a beautiful figure blocked her way. Your opponent is me. Philoumeni was as noble as a goddess, and she was extremely determined to fight. A large number of bird-shaped flames surged out of her body. She hooked her slender fingers, and the soul fire of the Tianming bird burst out and crushed towards Gemma from all directions. Damn it, I want to kill. Before she finished her words, a soul fire came back at an angle and hit Gemma's back hard. As if she was drunk, Gemma only felt her vision disordered, her soul was shaken, she couldn't even defend herself, and her whole body was exposed. Countless bird-shaped flames collided with her. At the first sight, Gemma was submerged by the soul fire of the Tianming bird and burned to ashes. Though Yuamanai raised her hand in the air. And after a moment of silence, she said speechlessly, "Okay, you are not worthy of being my opponent." With the death of the Chosen One, the defense of Blue Sky City was completely defeated and fell into Field's hands. Oh my god! City Lord Neil was terrified. His own Chosen One was killed in a single encounter. How could he fight? Without any hesitation, he mounted a gray-white warhorse and turned around to rush out of the city. "Can you run away? I want to capture you alive and interrogate you." Field snorted coldly, drew out his bow and arrow, aimed at the enemy's warhorse, and shot an arrow. The arrow didn't even hit a hair of the horse, but hit Neil's buttocks. Neil fell off his horse with a cry of pain. "Ouch! My lord, you are a great shooter." The knights around him cheered loudly. Field was sweating profusely. He was actually aiming at the warhorse. Neil's guards were coming to rescue him. Field waved his hand, and the subhuman-like cavalry behind him pulled the bowstrings together, shooting out like locusts, turning the guards into hedgehogs. "Gurlos, you take 300 people. Occupy the granary, the arsenal and the city lord's palace respectively, to prevent arson. The rest of you, prepare fortifications, block the gap in the city wall, and the subhumans go up the city wall." After Field grabbed the enemy city lord, he threw him to the soldiers and hurriedly climbed up the intact section of the city wall. "The pursuers may take advantage of our attack and suddenly attack us from behind. Firamani, Ashina, get ready." Chapter 574 Wanted Criminals. However, when Field saw the situation outside the city, he found it was quiet. The square formation formed by the infantry led by Knight was not attacked. "What's going on? You can bear it." Field wiped the blood off the sword, looked around several times, then frowned and asked in confusion, "Does the enemy have other intentions?" Unknown enemies are the most terrifying. Field was even more worried. In fact, the pursuers in the distance did not react at all. Field's raid was too fast, taking the city in a quarter of an hour, which was unheard of. The whole camp was silent. After a long silence, Letty finally spoke first. "How did that army suddenly attack the city?" "I don't know." The adjutant was dumbfounded. "They couldn't even hold out for a cup of tea? That's bad. If the commander knew that the rebels had captured the city right under our noses, we would definitely be punished." "Then take it back." Letty was very annoyed. "Pass the order down and make a pre-war mobilization. If they can attack unexpectedly, so can we. What's more, the other side is already exhausted." The cavalrymen who rushed into the city were originally the elite of the Imperial Army. Most of them were fighting knights. They killed the garrison easily as if they were playing with people. A large number of defenders, stabbed by the soldiers, fell in a pool of blood. The soldiers, who were bloodthirsty, directly pointed their weapons at civilians, and even the wounded, who were resting in the city, were dragged off their beds and hacked to death by the crazy soldiers. "Okay, the enemy's defense has collapsed. Stop killing." Field stopped the killing. "Listen to the order, help the infantry return to the city." "But this is an order, we still have a battle to fight. Don't waste your energy, I will deal with them." "Yes." The crowd reluctantly put away their swords and guns, staring fiercely at the remaining Longta people. These invaders, all were scared to death, either crying or begging for mercy. They finally experienced the cruelty of war, and no longer had the arrogance they had before. "Field, don't be soft-hearted," Philomenai said coldly. "They are soldiers after putting on their equipment." "I know." Field waved his hand and said arrogantly, "But we are a righteous army, and we believe in winning people over with virtue." What Field was thinking was, "You guys are having a good time, but how can I upgrade my corrupted cat? Keep the people in the city as experience packs for the corrupted cat." Soon, the people led by knights successfully entered the city, without any obstacles from beginning to end. The morale of the soldiers of the Imperial Army was greatly boosted, and they raised their eyebrows and roared to the sky, gradually walking out of the shadow of the previous defeat. "You really did it." Yi Feng was dumbfounded, with more awe in his eyes. "The speed of the siege is too exaggerated. It's unbelievable. Why were you unknown in the Empire before?" The soldiers and the chosen ones of the Imperial Army were confused at most before, but now they couldn't help but feel awe. "Ha, haven't you heard of the Fox of the North? I'm a master of blitzkrieg." Field made a light-hearted joke, and then ordered, "We can't relax now, Yifeng. You take the infantry, and force the Dragon Tower people in the city to work. Take them to the street, build a wall with earth, and move furniture to reinforce it. What are you going to do? The pursuers will attack sooner or later. We have to prepare for street fighting, of course. Not attacking is the best. Field was unsure after all. The other side was too calm. I have already entered the city, but the enemy has not made any move. It is a bit scary. I can only take the time to rest and build defenses. Street fighting? Yi-Feng was confused. In this era, normal battles are to set up battle formations and defeat the enemy to win. Street fighting is not important. Well, street fighting is not easy, but it is better than defending the damaged city wall. Field waved his hand. Go and do your own thing. Remember to report if there is any situation. Field arranged everyone and planned to go to the Lord's palace to take a look. You don't want this? Then I'll throw it away. Philomené held a short sword, like a salted fish, and shook it with disdain. Well done, another artifact. Field snapped his fingers happily, and then said with regret, there are so many artifacts, but few of them are useful, what a pity. After conquering the artifact, Field got the information. Artifact, Wailing Short Sword. Source, Goddess of Magic. Effect, can activate the short sword, fire fear bullets, and make the enemy feel terrified. Special effect, only for the magic goddesses chosen. Another new pantheon, probably unique to Dragon Tower. There is no chance of finding a suitable one. Field was not surprised, and was about to leave. There are mice spying on the information. Ashita's ears swayed elastically, and suddenly she turned around and drew her bow and arrow, and the ice blue arrow shot out like a star. The plain wolf-tooth feather arrow, with the blessing of Asina's divine power, exploded with a brilliance far beyond that of magic props. Clang! The woman hiding on the roof raised her hand and used a feather brush and knocked the arrow away. Winter power, interesting. As the woman retreated, she realized that her right hand was stiff, covered with a layer of frost. It was just an ordinary attack, but it had such an effect. Spy, get down. Ashina jumped onto the roof neatly. The ice spear in her hand was like a white meteor, with a sharp gust of wind piercing the opponent's heart. The speed of this shot was extremely fast, rolling up the sky with gun shadows. Don't hurt me. The painter screamed. His face was full of panic and grievance, seeing that the spear was about to hit. A shrunken corpse hand stretched out from her drawing board, and hit Ashina's divine spear with great force. The spear hummed, shifted a few centimeters, pierced the painter's shoulder, and knocked her heavily off the roof. Ugh, it hurts. Sheen stumbled to the ground with a pale face, and the drawing board in her hand also fell to the ground. She looked at Field weakly, pitifully and helplessly, and her eyes seemed to speak. Even though she had seen a lot of beauties, but the other party's appearance was not only top-notch. It was also particularly unique, very artistic, lonely, hazy, and with the shyness of a homegirl. Don't attack me. I'm just a painter passing by. Ashina jumped off the roof and shot into the ground. You were on the roof, spying on our army. No, I just saw a wonderful scene, and I couldn't help but paint it. Qingyin covered the wound on her shoulder and was about to cry. If you don't believe me, just look. Is that so? Such a gentle woman. She must not be a bad person. What surprised Field was that one of his own soldiers was obsessed with picking up the painting. Don't look. Field used his fighting spirit and shouted, return to the team and clean up the battlefield. Oh! 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 The soldier was startled and finally woke up from his dream. Lord, I apologize for my intrusion, but I really have no ill intentions. Qingyin bowed repeatedly. Huh? Why did I hear that there is a famous wanted criminal called the Beheading Painter? Chapter 575, The Painter Who Comes to Make Fun. When Field was fighting against the Shadow World sect, he carefully read the wanted posters of various provinces in the Empire. This wanted criminal from Yinshui province has killed countless people. Level 3 Divine Skill, Copy, Tianming Bird Soul Fire. Seeing that she was exposed, Qingyin's previous gentleness and intelligence instantly disappeared. Instead, she bloomed with a strange coldness, and the hidden murderous aura was like an evil ghost in the lake. She painted with a feather brush in the air, and instantly outlined countless black Tianming birds. The floating Tianming bird exudes a cold and bloody murderous aura. It's amazing that you can imitate a divine skill. Isn't this my divine skill? Phil Yuamanai blinked twice, crossed her arms in front of her chest, and said coldly, remember to indicate the source next time. Qingyin waved her brush. Yes. This is my art. Enjoy it. The Tianming birds around him howled shrilly. And not only did they not fly away, But they suddenly exploded. Black flames. And directly blew Qingyin to the ground. Wow! It hurt so much. Qingyin's soul was shaken. Her eyes were blank. And she was ignited by the soul fire again. She rolled on the ground in pain, trying to put out the flames. Oh! This. Ashina was disheveled in the wind. I was going to take it seriously. Awesome. Your art is to blow yourself up. Field was confused. And couldn't help but applaud. Sure. Is that you? My magic skill is exclusive. Phil Yuamanai couldn't help it. Covering her mouth and smiling. Don't think about copying the ability of disaster. This skill is interesting. Catch her and let Heiyu absorb it. Field rubbed his chin. It seems to have a lot of limitations. But it's also very good. Don't be too proud too early. I didn't lose. Qingyin, who was in the state of burning, didn't even extinguish the flame on her head. And still stood up stubbornly. 3rd level magic skill. Blood painting evil servant. The painting board that fell to the ground was bleeding. And a dry corpse hand stretched out from it. A shrill wail was heard. And 3 headless slender monsters walked out of the painting. Roar! The slender monster was extremely terrifying. Cover my retreat, Qingyin ordered. We refuse. The monster servant turned around strangely, walked forward with great pressure, grabbed Qingyin's perfectly curved ankle, and lifted her up. Hey! 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 Don't let me go! Qingyin's pupils trembled, trying to control, but found that she couldn't do it at all. Oh no, the soul power is too severely damaged. I can't even control the evil servant. You killed us, we will take revenge. The monster grinned, grabbed her skirt, and was about to tear it apart. Qingyin kicked the monster with her long legs, which aroused the monster's interest. You are just making fun of me. I was so serious before. Field couldn't hold it back. You can actually make a defeat animation yourself. It's better not to give it to Kuroba, so as not to waste it. No one fought back, and let Qingyin perform. She could actually defeat herself. Seeing her weak appearance before, I thought she was a beast in disguise. It turned out that she was really weak. It's rare to see such a pure person. Put her down. I'm afraid of being struck by lightning. Also, the soldiers should rest. Field asked the soldiers to leave. The soldiers around were all ready to watch the exciting show, and they had no intention of working. Yes, sir. Ashina stepped forward, her spear like a dragon, and she killed the evil servant in an instant, and then beat the painter to the ground. Woo woo woo. Qingyin wiped her tears. It's so unlucky. I just want to paint. Why are you doing this? Bullying me. What are you playing at? Jealous came humming a little tune, and she was suddenly stunned. This divine power fluctuation is chosen by the god of killing, although it is well hidden. But I can feel the bond with the same kind. After speaking, Jello's divine power fluctuation was revealed. Qingyin looked up suddenly, and said in shock, the Imperial Army has accepted the chosen one of slaughter again? Then can you stop wanting me? Wait. My mind is confused. Field rubbed his eyebrows. Let's talk about it one by one. What's your name? Is it the beheading painter I mentioned? Well, my stage name is Qingyin. As for the beheading painter, it is true, but it is normal for the chosen one to kill. Qingyin shrugged, picked up the drawing board. You have killed many people, and it fits my aesthetics very well. Really? After all, I am called Bloody Hand Slaughterer. Field said nonsense. Qingyin continued, ever since the Empire has characterized the chosen one of slaughter as a traitor and a demon, I have been hunted down every day and have to protect myself. As for the bloody rumors, it's because I often appear at murder scenes, pursuing the art of blood. I never kill innocent people. This is not nonsense. When she was caught by Qiao before, she didn't cut anyone. So it's the chosen one of slaughter. Then it's not surprising that she is wanted. Field nodded. After all, the shadow cult has done too many evil things. Sisters can't help themselves and are used by villains. After all, the Empire no longer has our home. Qingyin sighed. We, the chosen one of slaughter, have been loyal to the Empire for generations. But we were involved in the cruel royal struggle, and the Queen's sister was defeated and killed in the end. We know too much. And without the origin and protection of the Ross family, we have become rats that everyone wants to kill. In the whole world, there is no one willing to accept us. The protection of the Ross family? Field leaned back, unbelievable. What's the matter? He is the Earl's own son, and no one protects him. At least in the past, the Ross family was very prosperous, When the 6th level god chosen, Bloody Rose, was there, we all had the backbone. Unfortunately, now we no longer have the wings to protect us from the wind and rain. Now the Ross family, I am afraid there is no god chosen for killing. And me, and me! Gerlos raised his hand quickly like a primary school student who could answer questions. Xingyin widened her eyes. Huh? Could it be that? Yes, I am the heir of the Ross family. Field raised his head to the sky at a 45-degree angle. I have never forgotten that. My charming ancestor, of course, would accept the chosen one of the killing god. Hey! 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 Xingyin was about to cry. No wonder, I smell the scent of the chosen one of the killing god on you. Very strong. As China came closer, sniffed the smell. I can't smell it at all. There is such a thing, Gerlos said shyly. Sir, you didn't steal my clothes? Did you? Ahem, I'm not that kind of person. Another question, what is your relationship with Ween? Field quickly changed the subject. Ween? Who is she? Is she also a painter? The killer of Night Owl. Ah. Xingyin used a brush to outline the painter's cap, then used divine power to weave the cap, and put it on her head. They are all quick-made gods chosen, and their names are also plagiarized, probably borrowed from my stage name. In addition, my real name is Oligao. Chapter 576, 3rd Level Lord and Inscription Painter. Quick! Field was excited. No wonder the people of Night Owl are so bad. How did they do it? I know about this. In exchange, can you please not kill me? Xingyin picked up the drawing board. I will draw a portrait for you for free. It will be very beautiful. There is no rush for this. You can talk about Night Owl first. Field did not believe it easily, stayed alert. What if this guy can curse others? Wouldn't it be very dangerous? Hero King is actually similar to King or Hero. It's just a meaningless title. There are 2 generations in total. The first generation of Hero King, originally, was the 6th level god of the Empire. Yi Ming can split his own abilities and turn them into attributeless divine power, lend them to teammates. Now Audrey, she is a pseudo 6th level without a domain. The power comes from Yi Ming. As for Night Owl, I guess it's the same. I got the power lent by Yi Ming. Xingyin shrugged, of course. I only know this much. I don't know why they rebelled. So that's it. Field understood. Her words were very convincing. The last question. Have you been contracted? On the small map. There is no her. No. Then why? We can't sense your existence? Xingyin said awkwardly. Because I used the breath of the goddess of beauty. And copied her camouflage skills. After canceling the camouflage, Xingyin immediately removed the ability to charm. Although beautiful, she is no longer addictive. Field was greedy. And secretly thought, I must collect a bunch of beautiful goddesses in the future. And keep them at home as maids. Which is definitely a feast for the eyes. This divine skill is really good. Field rubbed his chin. It is similar to the innate ability of the Chaos Gods chosen. There is a difference. Chaos's disguise ability is fake. But it does not consume divine power. My copying is a skill. Which consumes a lot of energy. It will weaken, and has a time limit. It can only last for a quarter of an hour. After speaking, Xingyin took out the paintbrush, copying. 3rd level divine skill. Violet aura. A violet and orange-yellow aura enveloped everyone. My power has become much stronger. Field felt that he was strengthened. So, are you still going to arrest me? Or execute me? Or make me pregnant? None of them. Although the last one is possible. Field's words scared Xingyin. But the next words almost made her jump for joy. Join us. It's better than wandering. Of course. I have to make it clear that if you are really an unforgivable lunatic, I will never forgive you. Yeah. I have a request. Xingyin nodded repeatedly, but still looked embarrassed. I need private time to paint. You can build a studio. Go to the City Lord's Hall to talk in detail. There are many people here. Field pulled everyone to the Lord's Hall. Before he took 2 steps, a mysterious power suddenly surged into his soul. Although there were thousands of mountains and rivers between them, Field could feel that this power was extremely intimate and familiar. It was like a butterfly emerging from a cocoon. The strange power made Field startled. I had actually broken through to the 3rd level Lord. Could it be that the territory has developed further? The Lord's level is linked to the development of the territory, and it is usually not urgent. The Lord's ability is mainly auxiliary, and the combat power itself will not be improved, but the Lord's skills obtained are all very good. It is because of the Lord's ability that he has opened up a new path. Let me see what new abilities I have gained. 1. Shelter Space, exclusive a special soul space derived from the interweaving of a large number of completely different divine powers. Effect. The contracted chosen god in a dying state will be teleported back to the shelter space for recuperation. The cooling time is 3 months. And the shelter space can only accommodate one chosen god. 2. Divine Seal Extraction, exclusive. World Foundation level, a special ability derived from the interweaving of a large number of completely different divine powers, and the influence of the law domain. Effect. Shattering artifacts. Refining divine seals. And collecting enough divine seals can provide skills, talents, and artifact enhancements for the contracted chosen god. The special effects brought by strengthening are affected by the type of divine seals extracted. For example, if all extracted are artifacts of the god of fire, the strengthened skills will tend to have flame effects. Note, the number of divine seals consumed is related to the strength of the chosen one, and the strengthened object, talents and divine skills consume less, while artifact strengthening consumes a lot the same. Strengthening the divine skills of Night Owl and others consumes very little. Strengthening the divine skills of Phyromony consumes a lot. Rosaria's Endless Slash has been strengthened once, and its power is extremely terrifying. Fuck. This is awesome. It can even strengthen artifacts. Field was so happy that he almost jumped up and hit the roof. He couldn't help laughing and said, although the Lord level is slow, the gains are really good. As long as there is enough time, I can strengthen all the skills, talents and artifacts of a certain god's chosen to the top level. A life-saving ability. An ability to turn waste into treasure. Both are quite practical. I am so popular? Field is so happy. Qingyin saw Field laughing, secretly relieved, thinking that her joining made the other party very happy. Without rushing to test the new ability, seeing Qingyin's expectant expression, Field decided to contract with the chosen god first. Who should I contract with? Of course it's me. No doubt. Just pass on the mark of the chosen god. Qingyin lifted her coat with great intellectual beauty, revealing the mark of the chosen god. The next moment, the mark of the chosen god outlined the cold shadow of the goddess of slaughter, and the invisible soul link was passed. After Field accepted it, he completed the contract and obtained the other party's information. Chosen god, Eligar, stage name, Qingyin, occupation, inscription painter, can learn the exclusive inscription of the goddess of slaughter, artifact, scarlet paintbrush, first divine skill, copy, draw the other party's portrait. Imitate the divine skills that the other party has performed. The effect of the magic skill is 60% of the opponent, and the attribute is killing magic power, which lasts for 15 minutes. Note, the foundation level and exclusive skills cannot be copied. The second magic skill, blood painting ghost servant, absorbs the soul of the slain, condenses a powerful evil servant. Note, when the soul power is damaged, please do not use it. The third magic skill, God carved inscription, killing for non-artifacts. It provides permanent inscription carving. Carving effect, weapon penetration is improved, and it causes difficult to heal lacerations. Talent, artistic perspective, design clothing and equipment. Especially beautiful. Oh, it turns out to be an auxiliary type, and a precious inscription master. It's a pity that the second skill is a bit crooked. Inscriptions are similar to enchantments, but there are differences between the two. The duration of enchantment is very short, and the magic core will be used for energy later. The inscription is engraved on the weapon, and as long as it is not erased, it can be used forever. Field was very happy. In the future, the equipment in the Night Territory will allow her to engrave inscriptions and make better inscribe equipment. As the saying goes, the output is continuous, and the support is solid. She will definitely have a stable job in the Night Territory. Chapter 577, Utilization of Natural Forces. Take a weapon and test it. Field took out an arrow. Can you cast an inscription on the arrow? Of course. Qingyin took out a feather brush, muttered something, and a few strange runes condensed and were engraved on the arrow shaft. The ordinary arrow sparkled with reddish energy fluctuations. Field seemed to see the equipment change from white ordinary to blue rare. The whole process only took 3 minutes. Great High Priest. Ashina's eyes sparkled. So powerful. In the Wolf Clan, only the priests, who are in high positions and have great power, can master the ability to strengthen equipment. Haha, not really. Sheen smiled twice. She was beaten too badly by Asina before, and she was scared. If you make high-quality weapons and sell them, it will be a huge income. After this idea popped into his mind, Field shook his head. Forget it, I'm not short of money for the time being. There are too many villains in the Empire, and I don't feel safe selling it to anyone. After understanding Chang'e's ability, Field let her rest for recovery. After all, Asida had injured her before. My lord, we occupied the granary and arsenal of Blue Sky City, and found a large amount of usable supplies, Jellos reported. There are 200 sets of fighting spirit armor and weapons, all of which are level 3. But there is a lot of good news. Field nodded with satisfaction. But what? The styles are all from the Dragon Tower Empire, which are very different from ours. Field nodded thoughtfully. Is that so? Let's equip them first. Most of the defeated knights are incompletely equipped. Equip them. In addition, the bedroom of the City Lord's palace has a large amount of gold, silver and jewelry, which is estimated to be worth 30,000. Do you want to pack them up and take them away? After struggling for a moment, Field waved his hand. Forget it. Human lives are important now. Let's load 2 more carts of food. Let someone pack the money and bury it. Come back to get it if there is a chance. As long as there is someone, you can rob them if you want money. At night, after Field finished his military affairs, he muttered, let me see what the territory is like now. It can actually allow me to break through to the 3rd level lord. He woke up the Black Crow and found himself on the swing in the castle garden. The weather was getting colder, and the garden looked a little bleak. Not far away was the little girl Blackfeather. She was concentrating on controlling her power. The black and red divine power rose up like a flame, and gathered into terrifying black crows, which swam around. The divine black crows looked exactly like the magical beasts she controlled. If you look closely, they are obviously energy bodies, without any divine skills or artifacts. She was able to condense her own power into substance. This talent is very terrifying. The little girl has been upgraded from level 0. Right. What kind of artifact should I equip her with? Or what route should she take? Field thought for a long time, and when he saw Hey, you stopped training, he finally spoke. You're doing very well. Hey, the adults are back. Hey, you turned around quickly, trotted to Field, put his hands behind his back, and said shyly, I didn't know that the Black Crow was controlled by adults before. I thought it was a god, and I prayed to it often. There is such a thing. Field was confused. The little girl's belief was so weird. Others would be afraid of the monsters, but she liked them. Where's Rosaria? Field asked. The eldest lady went to Chinmu territory to clean up the decayed creatures. She said that the road construction was always disturbed by the decayed corpses. As soon as Hey you finished speaking, he heard a splash of water. Oh my god! What's the noise? Field was startled. Did the enemy take the opportunity to launch an attack? It shouldn't be. Miss Fox is doing research recently. She said she wants to create a saw that can saw wood without people. There have been frequent loud noises these 2 days. Oh! Interesting. I'll go and take a look. You go to bed early. Yeah. Hey you nodded obediently. Flying out of the castle, controlling the Black Crow to soar in the sky. Field immediately realized that the night had brought about a huge change. Neat and flat roads, tracts of farmland, continuous grape racks were being built, and even new wineries were being built. The industrial area had been completely transformed into stone houses. Because it was time to get off work, the workers left the industrial area with laughter and chatter. In the south of the manor, a water wheel overturned in the river. Next to it was a pile of wood and rough iron, a large machine made of. The little fox Gao Gri was directing everyone to pull the overturned water wheel out of the water. The water flow was too fast, and the bearing broke directly. The little fox pulled her ears. Extremely frustrated, she was dejected, and suddenly saw the Black Crow flying over. And her eyes suddenly lit up. You go and rest first. I'll think about it. The little fox quickly sent everyone away. Yes. The craftsmen were happy to hear that they could go home from get off work. After everyone left, Field controlled the Black Crow to land. What new invention are you making? My lord. This is a water saw. The little fox gestured. I was inspired by the water mill you designed. And I thought of using water power to drive the saw to cut wood, which can save a lot of manpower. Smart idea. Field nodded with satisfaction. And the night territory lacked such creative talents. But I encountered a difficult problem. The little fox drooped his ears. The speed of the water flow is just like a field mouse. Sometimes fast and sometimes slow. And it is unpredictable. If it is slow, it is okay. At most the efficiency will be lower. But if it is fast, it will easily destroy the device. Today's physics is not systematic. And this kind of problem is indeed difficult for the little fox. But it is not difficult for someone who has undergone 9 years of compulsory education. Field said, of course. Then control the water speed. Water flow speed equals flow rate / cross-sectional area * water depth. We can control it. Ah bah. The little fox was confused. To put it simply, we control the depth and flow of water. Field laughed. Wouldn't it be better to dig a reservoir by the river? Then use gates on both sides to control the flow of water in and out. Then we can control the speed of the water wheel. If you want a faster speed, open the valve wider. If you want a slower speed, open the valve lower. Ah? The little fox covered his head. My head is itchy. It's not hard to understand. It's just basic physics knowledge. I'll teach you when I come back. Field suddenly thought of another good thing. By the way, bearings break easily because the friction of rotation is too great. Use steel and steel balls to make rolling bearings, instead of wooden bearings, which can greatly reduce friction. Rolling bearings sound awesome, but they are very common in life. For example, on bicycles. When you ride some bicycles, you will hear something make a noise. Generally, it is the rolling bearings of bicycles, bearings and ball stops. The little fox's pupils trembled. Then, should I tell you how to make steel balls? Chapter 578 Street Fight. Seeing the other party nod in shock, Field said happily. Just drop boiling hot molten iron or steel directly into the water, and it will naturally form a spherical shape. Even if it is deformed, grinding is much easier than knocking out a spherical shape. Sir, how do you know this knowledge? The little fox could no longer describe the shock in his heart. Field was embarrassed. He couldn't say that he learned it in his previous life. Just study and practice, read more, read good books. But everyone says that. You read embarrassing books. He lowered his head. The little fox said in a very low voice. Sir, don't read those. Thinking too much can hurt your body. When I grow up, I will help you. When he said the last part, his voice was as small as a mosquito. Ahem. It was the goddess of wisdom who told me in my dream at night. Don't worry about it. Field was sweating profusely. Also, who told you this? It wasn't Miss Tisifa. The little fox waved his hands repeatedly. Okay. It's good that it wasn't her. Nodding with gritted teeth, Field secretly said, when I go back, I have to humiliate her severely. By the way, send someone to call Xiao Feilong and Rosaria back. I have something to tell them. Then, Field ordered Xiao Feilong to take all the corrupted soldiers, together with Rosaria and Heiyu, and board the Abyss battleship of the Night Lord, and go south along the coastline to come to the Songhai province for support. There was no need for directions. There was only one coastline in the west of the enemy country. As long as they followed the coastline, they didn't have to worry about getting lost. Of course, to be on the safe side, Field asked them to bring Black Crow with him. The granary in Blue Sky City had plenty of food. After Field had all the soldiers have a good meal, they rested well for the night. The next day, Ashina hurried to find Field. My lord, the pursuers are moving. They are probing and scouting in the suburbs. Great, she didn't attack, but I was panicking. Field excitedly punched, and didn't even drink the oatmeal he was holding, and immediately drove his horse to the city wall. There were indeed dense figures on the horizon. The knights kept patrolling and scouting, and from time to time, a single rider would come roaring. Hey, the coward on the city wall. A beautiful woman suddenly rode up, threw an arrow casually, and turned away. They are testing, seeing if there are any traps outside the city. Ashina saw the enemy's intention at a glance. Many cities have horse traps or asphalt outside. There is no doubt that they are going to attack. Field clapped his hands and laughed. Yesterday's raid on the city set them an example. Pass the order down, speed up the construction of chevaux de frise and roadblocks. Ah? Sir, the enemy is attacking. Why are you happy instead? Gerlos raised his hand, like a curious baby. Because the pursuers will gather more and more, while the enemy's main force has not arrived. The best way is to weaken their manpower first. Field pointed at the enemy. But the enemy is all cavalry. Our active attack is doomed to be a waste of effort. The advantage of cavalry lies in mobility. If they can't win, they will run away. When they stop chasing, they will come back immediately, like flies. This is also the reason why it is difficult for infantry to completely wipe out cavalry. And it is also difficult for cavalry to completely wipe out cavalry. Time is tight. Wasting it on a meaningless pursuit is simply courting death. But if the other party takes the initiative to come and deliver, the nature is different. This is also the reason why I fight street battles, and not city defense battles. I have to make the enemy's cavalry lose their mobility advantage. Otherwise, even if the defense of the city is successful, the enemy can turn around and run away. Gerlos nodded repeatedly. I understand. In the Blue Sky City, the mercenaries, the captured Dragon Tower people, and the released natives are busy. They wanted to cut off the road, and piled up all kinds of miscellaneous items and furniture into lines of defense. The production of chevaux de frise was even simpler. The most abundant thing in the arsenal was spears. Tying spears to the roadblocks made chevaux de frise. At the same time, Field arranged archers, densely distributed on the roofs and inside the houses. Busy until noon. The fortifications were strengthened twice. But the enemy did not come. Field was even impatient, thinking of simply ignoring the pursuers and leaving directly. But that would sacrifice a lot of infantry. It was not until 1 o'clock in the afternoon that the sound of the pursuers' horns was heard. The Frambians seemed to be suffering from logistics. The knights put on heavy armor. And they also had to eat, pray, and observe etiquette, which would waste a lot of time. Knights of Frambia, the pride of the country, the people will sing praises of your bravery and fearlessness. Use your lances and swords to pierce the enemy's chest. Letty, the 4th level god of Frambia, held a huge blue dragon flag in one hand and a command sword in the right hand. She quickly passed by rows of heavy cavalry, and at the same time, the command sword in her hand collided with their lances, making a crisp sound. 1,500 people. 500 of them are level 3 fighting knights. 50 level 4 fighting knights, which is enough for Yi Mu to defeat. Glory forever. Glory forever. The knights are full of vigor. They have just won a great victory, defeating the 100,000 strong army of the Griffin Empire. Such a hearty victory is enough to be called a legend in their hometown. Every knight has no hesitation about the bright future, including Letty. She is also proud. Let the enemy see our glory. Goddess of justice, shine on me. After saying that, Letty's divine power surged all over her body, as if the real and tyrannical divine power exploded. And even the air around her was wailing in pain. 4th level divine skill. Libra Doling Spirit. Effect, within half an hour. The combat capability is strengthened in all directions, and the auxiliary capability is weakened. The strengthening divine skill is used, and the combat power of the 4th level god's choice is raised to a higher level. The wind and cloud surged, and the momentum suddenly exploded, and the surrounding war horses retreated 10 meters in succession. The fierce beast mounts of the Dookie Knights dared not even breathe. And this was the suppression power of the 4th level god's choice. As expected of you, Lady Letty. So terrifying. Of course, we are not the useless people of the Griffin Empire. We are able to lead an army on our own, and our strength has absolute suppression. I heard that the enemy does not have a 4th level chosen god, so it's a sure thing. Everyone talked excitedly from time to time, and even thought about how to celebrate. Letty did not order an attack immediately, but drove forward and said proudly, "Soldiers of the Griffin Empire, we Frambians have good virtues and believe in justice and peace. The chosen god does not need to shout, but only needs to use divine power. And the sound can be like thunder, shocking the soul. I'll give you a chance to live. Cut off your commander's head and give it to me, and I'll spare your life. Otherwise, there's only one outcome, death." After saying that, Letty summoned the divine spear and swung it out suddenly, like a siege crossbow, directly blasting through the city wall, and then drilling into a civilian house. Field, what should we do? The enemy is about to attack. The night breeze of the Imperial army felt the fluctuations of the enemy's divine power, and turned pale with fear.